This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to Rugby Radio, which comes to you live from Inverleith in Edinburgh for the National 2 game between STEWART'S-MELVILLE and Peebles. And with both teams undefeated in the first round of the league last week, there's plenty to play for this afternoon. We're here with you this afternoon till 5 o'clock, bringing you live commentary on the game from Dale Clancy and Robin Purdie. The match kicks off at 3 o'clock, but there's a full card up and down the country, and we'll keep you up to date on latest scores as they happen. We've got reporters at Kelso versus Heriots Blues in the Premiership, also at 2 National 1 games, Gala against GHA and Melrose versus GHK. So let's start with saying a very good afternoon to Robin Purdie. And Robin, we've got sunshine, we've got 2 unbeaten teams, we've got the biggest pitch in club rugby in Scotland, and the former home of Scotland up to 1925 when Murrayfield, of course, got built. And the history of the place, you can feel it, can't you?
Good afternoon, Stuart. Yeah, this place is steeped in history, and as you correctly allude to, we've got all ingredients we need for a fine afternoon of rugby, so let's settle in for 9-6.
Well, great history at this club as well. The amalgamation of Stuart's College and Melville College happened in the early 1970s. At the time, Douglas Morgan, the Scotland scrum half, he played here. He was actually a Melville player at the time of the coming together of the two colleges. So being here brings back a lot of memories for me as well. That's when I first started coming to the ground as a youngster. Now, Morgan went on to become a British Lion. He got 21 caps for Scotland, and he was battling with Alan Lawson for the jersey. Graham Shiel is his son-in-law, of course, and the Calder brothers, of course, capped out of STEWART'S-MELVILLE as well. So we've got a little quick quiz here because Dale's here. He's decided to join us. Hello, Dale.
Hello.
How was the traffic today? All right?
Yeah, it was tailing back along there.
It
but
was, wasn't it?
I think I've timed that perfectly. I think that's efficiency, if anything else, because I just parked up, sat down, and we're good to go. So, yeah, good timing on my part.
Right, well, I hinted on Twitter, or X as they call it now, whatever it's going to be this week, next week, about a little quiz that we're going to do between the two of you here and find out who actually knows this stuff about STEWART'S-MELVILLE. So first of all, I want you to name the two Calder twins who were capped for Scotland. We'll start with Robin, shall we?
Finlay and Jim.
Yeah, that's an easy one. What about the really unusual fact about their international careers? Dale, what was unusual? Now, of course,
this is well before my time.
I know, but you're a reader. You read books, don't you? History and things like that. Jim, who got 34 caps for Scotland. Finlay got 27 caps for Scotland. But there's something unusual about their international careers. Any ideas? I might have to pass it over to Robin here.
There's more Robin's time of the year.
I was a kid. No, I was going to say it was Finlay capped before Jim, but
no, you're getting cold. You're getting cold. Believe it or not, they never appeared in the same Scotland team together.
Despite now that you come to mention it.
Yeah, extraordinary little thing.
This is actually nail-biting stuff.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, this is brilliant.
Right, one for you then, Dale, because you were hopeless on the last one. What is the Doddy Weir connection with STEWART'S-MELVILLE?
Doddy Weir was actually a pupil at STEWART'S-MELVILLE College, was he not?
Absolutely right. And what's my connection, Robin, with STEWART'S-MELVILLE?
You were brought here by your father as an 8-year-old and sat in this very press box?
I did actually, yeah, but that wasn't the connection as well that I was looking for. I actually was the orange boy. I used to bring on the oranges.
Right, well, if nothing else, it demonstrates I was listening in the car on the way here.
Absolutely. Now, did you ever get oranges at half-time? Are you from that vintage era?
No. And
what happened to them then?
There's probably many a joke we could say about that, but yeah, I think the oranges certainly died away by the time I was playing, so there was no oranges at half-time. It was all fluids and high nutrition, as you gentlemen can see just now. It's obviously worked wonders for me. Chocolate oranges.
Well, actually, going back to 1970, and one of the games that I saw here was Stuart's College, as it was then, against Cardiff. What about the halfback pairing? Gareth Edwards and Barry John played here on that day back in 1970. That was pretty thrilling.
I'm guessing they won.
They probably did. They were on tour, but those were the good old days, weren't they? Of tours and great sort of relationships between clubs north and south of the border.
Yeah, it just shows you how things evolve, isn't it, in time with rugby? Because obviously this was it is a historic ground, in Scottish in Scottish history in terms of rugby. So that's just another kind of signal of how things change in the landscape of rugby as it grows and evolves over time. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be many Welsh internationals out in the field today.
There've been a few Scottish internationals produced from this place, even in recent times. George Turner.
Yeah.
Jamie Hodgson got a couple of caps. Going a wee bit further back, Ross Rennie. What a player he was, actually.
Ross Rennie, brilliant player, yeah. And there was a connection from last night's France-New Zealand game as well.
Yes, indeed. Scrum half.
Yes.
About these two clubs.
It's his brother.
Aldrich's brother played for Stuart's-Melville for the last few years, and Christie was brought up in Peebles before moving to Edinburgh and then off to New Zealand.
Great trivia.
I thought that's what I'm coming armed with. That's to make amends for my, the historic trivia that Stuart's trying to chuck down my throat.
Yeah. Now, wasn't it you that said this was the widest pitch in club rugby in Scotland? Is that right?
No, I said it was a wide pitch, and then you just said it was the widest pitch in club rugby.
I'm sure I've read that. Someone will let us know. If you do know if that's official or not, send us an email, podcast@bordersrugby.net. And so today then, the pitch is absolutely amazing. I just cannot believe that we're nearly halfway through September and we've got weather like this. It's absolutely brilliant. Earlier on I spoke to both sets of coaches.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Andrew Kelly with me now, part of the coaching team at Stuart's-Melville. Last week you went to Scremerston, a hard place to go. You came back with 2 points with the draw. How satisfied were you with that?
Yeah, I think the way the game flowed, I would say it was your stereotypical game of two halves. We were going down the hill there in the first half and we had all the ball, and then turn it round and they had all the ball in the second half. So in the balance of play, we're probably pretty happy to get away with the draw. They were going in the last 10 minutes a score up. So I think we just didn't capitalise on our chances, and they probably feel the same way. So I think a draw was about right.
12-0 up, I think you were right at the start, so a very good start for the boys.
That's right, yeah, we were 12-0 up and we were delighted with that, but we just felt that we didn't execute down there and we could have come away with more points, especially when we had that half of being in the ascendancy.
Now, of course, it's always hard when you're coming off a relegation as well, how you regroup and how the boys react mentally as well to the challenge. How are you feeling in terms of that at the moment?
I think we've got... I came in just new towards the end of last season, and I'm just really impressed with the spirit of the guys. We've kept a great deal of the same squad from last year. They're an unbelievably close unit, and they've coped with it extremely well. So we're just looking forward to this season, yeah.
Now, Jamie Sword's your captain, and a lot of people thought that, he might be going to a higher league, but you've managed to keep him. That's a huge plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie is a talisman for us. He's a great leader. He's also an extremely good player, which helps. So we are delighted to have him, and the boys especially are delighted to have him.
Who else should we be looking out for today?
Who else have we got? We've got a couple of new recruits. Hayden in the front row hooker.
Hayden Hart.
Yeah, Hayden Hart. He's a great player. His throwing has been absolutely superb, so our line-out functioned extremely well. Quite a nice player around the loose as well. We've got Curtis in the back row. Again, a new player that's come in and is extremely dynamic and can get around the pitch and give us a bit of go forward. So they're a couple of guys that have been great for us so far.
The last time we were here, you were at home to Kelso. You weren't obviously involved at the time, but it was another game of two halves, I suppose, because Kelso went ahead and got their try bonus very, very quickly. But the boys came back. And looking at your results last season for Stuart's-Melville, you ran a lot of big teams really close here.
Yeah, we did, and that is what we're going to try and build on, is maintaining pressure. So even though we've maybe scored a few tries and we've always started quite well, is actually to try and keep that going, especially when it's not going your way. You try and limit the amount of points that you're letting in, and try and get straight back down there, where we've really been it's all or nothing. We're a flood of tries and then we're on our line. It's trying to get that keep the scoreboard ticking over, but then deal with the pressure.
And it's a massive pitch, this, isn't it? Some saying it's the biggest club pitch in Scotland. And and looking at it from our vantage point in the press box here, it does look like that.
Yeah, I'm slightly out of breath looking at it just now, yeah.
Expansive rugby then, presumably the boys love.
Absolutely, that's the brand of rugby we want to play. But we also we know that we've got to get our contact sorted and be aggressive, be physical, and make sure that we can get quick ball so that we can play in the widths. So that'll be our challenge this week.
Well, the boys are beginning to come out on the pitch for their warm-up at the moment. We'll let you go, and the very best of luck today.
Thank you very much.
Well, Graham, a very good win last week against Gordonians, who were beaten all before them in the lower divisions last season. But a bit of an unknown quantity because you haven't played them for a long, long time. But you got the 5 points and they got nothing.
Well, yeah, that's always a good start to the season. And I think what we talked about afterwards was, we've done our fundamentals pretty well. Scrum, line out worked well, and now we can build off that. There's some areas that we worked on during the week that we alluded to, afterwards, but the guys have worked hard, and hopefully we'll see the rewards today.
No Matty Carrier today, but his influence has been running through the veins of Peebles sort of in the pre-season.
Absolutely, he brings a huge amount of experience from where he's been at Gala and Hoyk latterly, and just his communication with the players on the pitch is first rate, and it just buoys the guys along and keeps them moving and checks them when they need to be checked as well. So yeah, but the other guys, the senior boys, will step up today and just fill that wee bit of gap.
And you've got a couple coming back, Neil Hogarth, and also, of course, your captain, Murdo Anderson. He's on the bench, so presumably it'll be Jack Harrison that looks after stuff on the pitch.
Yeah, so the strategy will be, half-time, we'll probably get Murdo on. So he'll take the reins at half-time, and Jack will hopefully hand over in a good position.
And what about the influence of the Peebles Colts that have been coming through? Because we've been following them for quite some time now, and there's some very talented lads coming through. How many of them are actually almost on the brink now?
Well, there's quite a few over the brink and actually playing. So we had 4 debutants last week. We've got 3 of those retained. This week, Cammy Boak unfortunately had to pull out late. They're failing a fitness test, so he's been replaced by another Colt in Lewis Brotherston on the bench, and also Rory Smith comes on as well. So we're blooding them in thick and fast, and it's down to the position that they're in. They're good quality rugby players that are ready to play, and we wouldn't play them if they weren't ready to play. So that's a testament to the training they've put in up to now and what they've showed us as a coaching group in pre-season. So
it's not about if you're old enough, it's if you're good enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now this pitch, looking at it, absolutely huge. The biggest in club rugby in Scotland, I understand. Of course, it's the old international pitch, long before you and I were even thought of, way back in the 1920s and before that as well. Fabulous place to play rugby. I mean, it looks absolutely dream out there. Sunshine, 26 degrees, expansive play. It's right up your street, isn't it?
Well, hopefully. Maybe the front 5 won't say that after about 50 minutes or so, but yeah, no, it is, and this is what you want. You want to play rugby in these conditions rather than the chucking it down with rain and howling gales down in Dumfries as we were earlier on this year. So we're looking forward to utilising the conditions, utilising the pitch for our advantage, and I think our game is suited towards that.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to it, and the very best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Graham Patterson from Peebles, the head coach, and before that it was Andrew Kelly giving us his thoughts on the game. We can cross to the Greenyards now because Melrose have got a home match against GHK today. Let's bring in Sam Matthews.
First home game of the season at the Greenyards for Melrose today, and it is a sweltering day here, especially up in the press box. Hopefully the rugby can be as flary and fiery to match. Head coach Ian Chisholm is upset about their loss last week away from home to GHA, so they'll be looking to make amends here in front of their home crowd. Firstly, the away side GHK, they beat Biggar at home last week by 1 point, so they'll be looking to really cement a strong start to this season after narrowly staying up last year. All action live from the Greenyards. Kickoff is at 3 p.m.
Let's move over to Kelso in the Premiership, the Poynter Park, the first Premiership game to be played at Poynter Park for well over 20 years. It's Kelso who are taking on Heriot, and waiting for us in the toilets, I think, is Alan Lorimer.
Kelso will play their first home game since returning to the Premiership today at Poynter Park, where they face a Heriot side likely to be full of confidence following their opening round win last Saturday over former club champions Mar at Golden Acre. That earned the Edinburgh side 5 league points. Kelso only just missed out on a similar haul of points, having conceded a late try to Musselburgh last weekend that resulted in a 31-all draw at Stonyhill. Still, it meant 3 points for both sides, landing Kelso and Musselburgh in mid-table positions after round one. But while Kelso can applaud themselves for scoring 4 tries to earn the bonus point, they will be also acutely aware that they leaked the same number. So today, Kelso will be looking to tighten up on their defence, because against a free-running Heriot side, which will be relishing the top of the ground conditions, any weakness in this area will be ruthlessly exploited. Both sides will be slightly under full strength today. For Kelso, Keith Melbourne and Greg Ponton are on holiday, and Angus Roberts is still missing through work commitments. Heriots will be without their skipper and centre Bobby Kay, and front rowers Danny Dineen and Angus Munro, the latter two directing their energies into supporting Scotland against South Africa in Marseille. In the circumstances, the game may boil down to which side adjusts to enforce changes, and boil might be the operative word, with temperatures likely to be in the mid-20s and water breaks essential. But for Kelso, who will hope to harness the support of a vocal home crowd, this game will be very much a test of how the Premiership newbies will cope with rugby in the top tier.
Kelso against Heriots Blues at Poynter Park. Well, our next port of call is in National 1. It's Gala coming off the back of a big loss at Watsonians last week, where they've got a chance to turn things around at Netherdale, where they face GHA. And looking after this one first today is Andrew Fleming.
Yes, welcome to Netherdale, where Gala welcome GHA, with the home side desperately wanting to make amends for last week's 50-point thumping at Watsonians in the opening round of tennis National 1. GHA, who suffered relegation from the Premiership on the final day of last season, come into this game in far better spirits after seeing off one of this year's title favourites Melrose by 42 points to 26 last weekend. The Maroons will be keen to maintain their strong home form, which has seen them lose just 5 of their past 22 matches here over the course of the past 2 seasons. Gala coaches Craig Dodds and Dean Keddy have made 4 changes in the back line, which sees a new centre pairing of Scott Peppers and Daniel Nicholson, and a fresh half-back partnership in the shape of Russell Kerr and Lachlan Johnson. The pack maintains a settled look, with the only 2 changes seeing Michael Angus and Jack Easton coming into the front row. It's Gala versus GHA, kick-off here at a sun-kissed Netherdale. Is it 3 p.m?
Yes, we're sun-kissed everywhere today, no doubt about that. Back to the Premiership though, and this afternoon Embrackies are at home to Musselburgh. Scottish champions Hawick visit Mar at Fullerton Park. Let's hear from both camps. Kenny Diffenthal is Mar's head coach, but first the man in charge at the Greens, and that's Matty Douglas.
That target's on our back. I've heard that a few times the last few weeks about how everybody's chasing us and we've got the target on our back, but look, that's a massive driver for me. It's a massive driver for this squad that we need to keep getting better, and we cannot switch off week to week. And if we continue to keep progressing and keep working hard, then we'll make it tough for teams to try and beat us. And that's the kind of mentality we've got within the squad. We're not a squad that is bullish and that just thinks we need to turn up. We work really hard and look at if the target's on our back, then so be it. Mar is a tough place to win, and if we defensively, if we're there and we can get a set piece platform, then look, we'll be looking to try and get a big result. But Mar will be tough side to beat, and they certainly won't roll over after. They'll be looking to get back to winning ways this weekend. So yeah, look, it's another big game for us. We go into a tough run, Mar, Kelso, Accies and Currie. So look, we'll be wanting to pick up as many points as we can in the next couple of weeks, and we're certainly looking forward to taking the trip to Truden on Saturday.
Looking forward to the weekend. Boys have prepped really well so far. A few work-ons from last weekend. Disappointment obviously hit hard. First game of the season, so we need to try and fix those, and then move into what we know will be a monumental task against a Hawick team that seem to have started where they left off last season. I'm sure it'll be a good contest. Hopefully lots of people at Fullerton. So we look forward to it. It's going to be a tough one.
Kenny Diffenthal, before that Matty Douglas. Well, another big game in the Premiership is Glasgow Hawks against Selkirk at Balgrave. Both teams suffering defeats on the first day of the season. Selkirk coach is Gordon Henderson, but first we're going to hear from the Hawks boss, and that is Andy Hill.
This week we obviously welcome Selkirk to Balgrave, and we're excited to get our home season off to a start. Games against Selkirk have historically been very close, contested affairs. ones in which we've been in front quite a lot of the time and then managed to lose it towards the end. So that's been a real focus. Having reviewed the footage from Hoyt last week, we felt as if while we were kind of well beaten by Hoyt and maybe the scoreline didn't really reflect that, we managed to hang in there, which was real grit and determination from the boys. This week's been about a few key fixes to try and make sure that we can solve a couple of things in attack, also solve a couple of things in defence in terms of trying to slow down ball. So that's what our focus has been on this week.
We're excited about this week. We're working hard last night at training, again tomorrow night. We're looking, to go through Glasgow with confidence and just in terms of our own performance, and just if these fixes are corrected, then we've got to we've got to hopefully come away with points. This week we've got Finlay Whelans and Ben Pickles available for selection, so we're looking forward to working really hard, hopefully come back with some points.
In National 2, Berwick have a tough task away at Stirling County, who put 55 points on Aberdeen Grammar last weekend on the road at Rubislaw. Berwick don't tend to travel that well. They didn't last season for sure. They're missing a few boys as well. Let's hear the thoughts of one of Berwick's coaches, Paul Pringle, and first the man in charge at Stirling County, that's Craig Deacons.
It was a very encouraging start to the season for us on the road up in Aberdeen, picking up the bonus point win. It was great for the coaches and the players to see firsthand the hard work paying off that we've put into our attack and defence structures in pre-season. We expect Berwick to be turning up really confident after a good draw last weekend against STEWART'S-MELVILLE at home. We expect them to be a well-drilled, big physical team. We're looking forward to the challenges that they're going to be bringing to us at Stirling County. However, we're saying to our players, take confidence from last week's performance at Aberdeen, but we don't want to become complacent. We want to build on that, and actually there's plenty of work-ons to be taken forward to this weekend. But we now know what we can do in the pitch.
We have a high volume of guys that are actually unavailable due to either being across to see the Rugby World Cup or family events. So we actually have 15 unavailable players this week. However, the lads have trained well, but it's a strong pack and a good set of backs. We're hoping that we can get the right outcome on the road.
And that was the voice of Paul Pringle from the coaching staff at Berwick. Before that, Craig Deacons in charge at Stirling County, who got a great start last week. Well, let's return to the Premiership, not too far from here. Curry are at home to Jed Forest this afternoon. We hear from Jed captain Clark Skeldon on what should be a big challenge for them.
Hoping to improve on last weekend's performance against Edinburgh Accies. We know we were good in spells last week, but we also know we'll have to be much improved this week to take Annan back down the road with us. There's a welcome return for Gary Monroe, Lewis Walker and Aidan Bambrick in the backs and Ben Howe in the forwards. And with no one picking up any notable knocks last weekend, it gives us a bit of competition for places this week. We do have the luxury of going up there with not a lot of expectation on us, so we can go up there with no pressure and enjoy our rugby and hopefully put in a performance that warrants some points at the end of it.
Clark Skeldon. Other games to look out for today in National 1, Biggar against Ayr, Glasgow Accies against Dundee, Highland, they're at home to Watsonians, all three very intriguing matches. But let's stay with Ayr for the moment, because they scored over 60 points last Saturday against Glasgow Accies under new head coach Grant Anderson, and this is what he had to say.
This Saturday we're looking forward to the fixture at Biggar. They'll pose a different challenge to what Glasgow Accies posed, and I'm keen again to see how we react to that. I was pleased with elements of our performance last week. Since coming in, I've tried to change quite a lot of the kind of philosophy and systems that the team are using, and I'm looking to do that quite drastically. We're playing off a different system in both attack and D. So again, just building into that as the weeks come. Some boys put in really strong performances, some boys not so much, so there might be one or two changes. Biggar obviously lost to GHK, so they'll be really keen to get back to winning ways. So a good environment to test ourselves in. We're looking forward to it.
Grant Anderson, the head coach of Ayr. Well, we're just 5 minutes away now from the big match of the day today in National 2. It's Stuart's-MELVILLE against Peebles. We'll be right back.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Yeah, just 4 minutes away from kick-off now. Before we join Dale Clancy, our commentator for today, let's bring in Robin Purdie, have a quick look at sort of the Premiership anyway. Kelso against Heriots Blues, first Premiership match for over 20 years there.
Yeah, it's going to be a great occasion at Poynter this afternoon, isn't it? And it's a really tough one to call. I think, as you guys alluded to a lot on the podcast this week, at this stage of the season, so many of the games are like that because there's so little form to speak of. But yeah, I think the coaches both mentioned, or it was Alan that mentioned, that both teams are missing 2 or 3 frontliners for one reason or another, and you'd like to think that Kelso can get the job done there.
Mar against Hawick?
Again, it's one of those that should be a banana skin for Hawick, the juggernaut that is Hawick, and this winning run that they're on that's lasted over a season. But then you see the Hawick team sheet come out yesterday, and it might not be a cricket score, but I can see Hawick coming back up the road with the spoils.
Glasgow Hawks, of course, are playing Selkirk, and both teams looking for their first win.
Yeah, it's like almost the battle of the two great unknowns. You never know what you're going to get really with either of them. Selkirk, of course, had such a good sort of time on the road last season as opposed to at Philiphaugh, and Hawks always have such a high turnover of players every summer. So yeah, again, Selkirk can nick that, but it's almost too tough to call that one.
And just down the road, Edinburgh is against Musselburgh, bit of a derby.
Yeah, it's a wee bit of a sort of East Edinburgh kind of derby, I guess, but no, I can't see anything other than a home win there, Stuart.
Okay, and finally, of course, there's Curry against Jed Forest. I think I know what you're going to say.
I'd love to think Jed will come away with the spoils there, but Curry have looked really strong for a number of seasons, but they look really strong again this season, and Jed look like they're going to have to kind of almost feel their way into the season. They didn't have much by way of a pre-season, and Jed possibly a bonus point might be or a couple of bonus points might be, but I'd be surprised if Jed came away with the spoils. I think Curry will win that one.
All right, well, we're very, very close to kick-off now here at a very sun-kissed Inverleith. Let's join our commentary team, Robin Purdie, and first Dale Clancy.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and thank you very much everybody for joining us here on Rugby Radio, providing you comprehensive updates on club rugby across Scotland this afternoon. We are here at Inverleith and we're going to be watching STEWART'S-MELVILLE versus Peebles in National 2, and it is an intriguing fixture here. Both teams undefeated, but Peebles were the only team to get off to a victory last weekend with a 27-17 victory at home at the Gates over Gordonians, where STEWART'S-MELVILLE were able to salvage a draw at Scremerston against Berwick. So, as Robin's alluded to just when we're looking at the Premiership fixtures, it's difficult to look into both of these sides at the moment in terms of form, but it's an interesting fixture, and you've picked out a couple of players just in the warm-up that you quite fancy as well. So what are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, you're right. STEWMEL getting a draw down there, first game of the season. Not that many teams will probably win down at Scremerston, so that looks on paper like a half-decent result. Peebles got a win, a bonus point win at that, at home, against a promoted team, so they would like to think that was going to be the outcome. So yeah, it's really difficult to call this one. In the STEWMEL ranks, I seen STEWMEL last season. I really like their second row and captain Jamie Sword. He's probably a player that can, expect a few knocks on his door over the coming seasons. STEWMEL possibly lucky to maintain his services or retain his services for this season, given that he starred for Edinburgh in the district championship. And Peebles, we've seen them down at Kelso in the Border League. I was really impressed with them. I was really impressed with a few other players that night. Scott Stoddart went well. Jack Harrison was really impressive. And they've got strength on the bench too, with the likes of Neil Hogarth and Murdo Anderson to enter the fray.
Peebles just led onto the field, obviously coached this season by the returning Graham Patterson, who had time at Musselburgh, also in Peebles Colts as well. but they've been led on to the field by captain Jack Harrison. He's going to start at 9 alongside Donald Anderson with the wingers Neil Pate and Scott Stoddart. There's a centre partnership of James Dow and Jamie Hodgkiss with Rio Batia at fullback. In the front row, ex-STEWART'S-MELVILLE captain Willie Aitken is loose head, and he's going to be partnered with John Napier and John Gray. In the front row, Ross Brown and Cammy Pye. In the middle row with Finlay Collins, Ewan Jackson and Roddy Guinea in the back row for Peebles. The home side, they're going to be captained by Jamie Sword, second row, who played for Edinburgh in the Inter-District last year. But they line up with Ewan Bowen at full-back. They've got Kidari and Miller on the wing, with Fraser and Ferguson in the centres. Burrows and Henderson are the half-back pairing, with Moyer, Hart and Spowart the front row. Sword and Scott in the middle row, with Malcolm, Thompson and Williams in the back row. So it's a cracking day for rugby. Both of these teams like playing expansively. They're just going through their last little repertoires. Stuart's-Melville in their red tops with the black shorts, red socks with the yellow trims as well. Just having a conversation there, huddled up inside their own half on the left hand side, whereas Peebles in their traditional red and white hoops with the navy shorts are just lined up sporadically, waiting to see what side that Stu-Mel are going to kick off. But it's going to be an interesting game, cracking conditions for it.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for any better. If anything, a slight breeze, but this pitch looks absolutely immaculate as well, I have to say.
Yeah, pitch very well kept here at Inverleith. And the match official just making sure that he's quite happy that the right amount of players are on the field and everything is good to go. And James Fowler, the Peebles volunteer on this side, running touch, an experienced referee back in the day, but play is now underway. Stuart's-Melville kicking from left to right, just kick it down the throat of Ewan Jackson, who gathers in the 22, then feeds Roddy Guinea as he pumps his legs forward, and he enjoys his first carry in this game, but Peebles have managed to benefit from a penalty there, so it looks like Jack Harrison is going to be on kicking duties. And they've obviously got the likes of Donald Anderson to call on as well. He might be called on sooner rather than later, because Kidari has gathered that on the right wing for Stu-Mel, and Napier is underneath it, gives it to Jackson, who's folding round. He powers through the first couple of challenges, but Hayden Hart does well to eventually bring the back row forward down. Ross Brown just lurking on the fringes now, carries over the 10 metre line. Peebles doing well to retain possession, but passing deep to Donald Anderson, who just skews a kick cross field. It's went out in the full, but in terms of distance, they've not lost a lot of territory there, because it was just in his own 10 metre line, but not coming off the boot well there for the experienced Donald Anderson.
No, a wee bit of an early error for Anderson there. In fact, they're going to go back. It's gone out on the full, so there are a couple of really good carries in there for a couple of the People's back row. Roddy Guinea, another who went well down at Pointer the other week in the Border League there, and Ewan Jackson, who wasn't playing that night here, he took a few bodies to haul him down as well. So yeah, industrious stuff by the People's back row that gets started.
Yeah, keep an eye out on Ewan Jackson. I played a lot of rugby with him at high school and through district stuff as well, into senior rugby. And as you can see, he looks after himself a lot better than me. He's still out there, but he's got a very good engine, and the likes of Murdo Anderson to call on as well, who can come on in the back row. But it is Ali Scott who gathers at the line out, and Stuart's-Melville power forward from that maul. They're able to get some good territory there, making a good 10 yards or so. A little clap from the scrum half, Charlie Burrows, to the referee, just signalling that he thinks there's an infringement there. He does it well, he takes a quick penalty, he just catches Peebles cold, and he goes in for the first score of this game. Brilliant awareness there from the scrum half, Charlie Burrows, and he gets the first score here after 2 minutes. He just managed to manipulate that penalty. Good communication with the referee, quick penalty, and that arc and run into the corner, the top corner here at Inverleith, opens the scoring.
It does indeed, and it was a really good sort of phase of play altogether because it was a beautiful line out taken right at the top of the jump by Ali Scott. Great throw. The Stu-Mel coach spoke about the throwing of this new hooker Hayden Hart, and he was right on the money there. It led to a drive of 10-15 metres. The penalty came and he was off like a shot, Charlie Burrows, without a hand being laid on him.
Yeah, difficult when you've well, it's great if you've got a team that can drive and can be so cohesive at the maul, but you wouldn't expect the scrum half to then be taking the penalty and nipping away. You would expect Peebles to perhaps be a little bit more organised at that passage of play, but Burrows has certainly put a shot across their bows. And the conversion attempt from the 22, just 6 metres in from the touchline, kisses the uprights and bounces back into play. So it's going to remain a 5-0, but it's been a lightning start from Stuart's-Melville, and it's how Peebles can react here, because in the initial, it seemed a bit longer, but the initial minute, they certainly looked composed and calm. They retained a lot of ball, But that one error from Donald Anderson then allows Stuart's-Melville that opportunity.
Yeah, it just shows that Peebles will need to be on their mettle, and it's almost that classic case of these teams won't know each other all that well, but they'll have to find out about each other soon enough.
An introduction there for a carry forward for James Ferguson, who gathers from that restart from Donald Anderson. He opted to kick a little bit deeper. The carry forward now from Curtis Williams, who takes a few bodies to bring him down, but an infringement there at the breakdown. The referee just signalling to Williams and also Ali Scott in there that there's been an infringement in that collision, so it's going to give Peebles an opportunity from the penalty, and it looks like they've opted to go for the post as well. Donald Anderson, an experienced fly half fullback as well, can play in the centres, has just signalled to the referee that he wants to be popping at the sticks, and it's going to be Peebles' first chance to go for the post and get them off the board.
Yeah, and it would almost be the perfect sort of response, wouldn't it, just to going 5-0 down there. If you can stroke this over from 35 metres, they'll be right back in this, and it'll just settle those nerves.
Donald Anderson sent relatively centre field, maybe a couple of yards to the left hand of the uprights, in between the 22 and the 10 metre line. The sun just shining on the back of his number. No issues with the visuals towards the post. It's a good connection with the right foot. It looks accurate, and the assistant referees raise their flag, and it means that Peebles narrow the margins 5 points to 3 now. The Peebles trail Stuart's-Melville, and 4 minutes into this game, it's been 5 minutes into this game, it's been a lightning start.
Yeah, I think both camps will be happy enough. Almost the Stew-Mel have scored, of course, almost against the run of play, and Peebles have fought right back in there. So game on.
Restart. Stuart's-Melville, they look for something to try and contest, but it was well gathered from Ross Brown. He doesn't have to jump; it just fell straight into his clutches. The referee just signalling to Stuart's-Melville to get their offside line as Jack Harrison just feeds the ball back into his hands and then kicks it into the sky. It's a testing one to be gathered by Willie Malcolm, but does well. And he's been tackled by Guinea and John Napier, but Napier is guilty of going high in that challenge, and obviously that is something that's going to be a real talking point, not only just for the remaining 75 minutes of this game, but throughout the season.
Yeah,
because Guinea had a great hinged position there, but John Napier just guilty of being the second man, just being a bit high. That's
right, that's 2 in this game, because the first penalty conceded by Stew-Mel was for a high shot on Roddy Guinea, so we're 5 minutes in, and that's 2 of those. Would both of them have been given last season, do you think? That second one was probably...
Yeah, I think you were going to say. I thought the second one was perhaps one of those ones that was riding up. It wasn't dangerous in any way, but the laws are the laws now, and the tackler certainly has a lot of responsibility to make sure they're round the hips and round waist high. So it's going to be a throw into the line out, well gathered again, but peeled off the back there from Williams. Williams feeds Burrows, and then interlinking play, bringing the winger into proceedings as well as he goes off of his side. Dragged to Stew-Mel, try and chip forward, but it ricochets off legs, and it's just bobbled into touch. But it was good interlinking play from the likes of Henderson and also vice-captain Adam Fraser getting in there as well to try and release Brodie Miller, but just couldn't get the kick through to allow his teammates to chase on. But again, we did say before the game, and Graham Patterson alluded to it in the pre-match build-up as well, both these teams like to play expansive rugby, and that was evidence of that from Stuart's-Melville.
Oh, it was. They looked pretty dangerous, actually, and it was another stem from another line-out that was taken right on the top. Another brilliant throw from Hayden Hart. He's a fairly slight hooker when you see him on this near touchline, but he's right on the money with the darts.
John Napier accurate from the line out, replacing Matty Carrier, does well to find his target. A challenged high ball there. Jack Harrison just lobbed it in the air. Brodie Miller was up like a salmon, but just jumped onto the shoulder of Neil Pate, and just as he was trying to gather the ball, just knocks it forward, and then Stuart's-Melville, guilty of being offside, a player touching the ball as it ricocheted forward, so Jack Harrison gets a chance to stab it further downfield and take Peebles closer towards that Stuart's-Melville 22.
Yeah, and again, Peebles, they've responded pretty well to that early try, and they're going to have a good attacking platform here from which to try and build something. I really like you'll know a bit about him, Dale. I really like Harrison as a player from what I've seen of him so far this season.
Yeah, great fun on a night out as well, Jack Harrison, but a really talented rugby player. He's committed a lot to his studies over the last few years, but represented England counties when he was down training as a vet a few years ago. And now back in Peebles' colours, can play in the centre as well, but he's digging the ball as a scrum half from that ruck, feeding Donald Anderson and then getting through the hands. Now bringing James Dow into play, who's a really unorthodox outside centre, but certainly found his position in this Peebles team. He's hauled to ground just shy of the 22, maybe 5 metres or so short of the Stuart's Melville 22. It's recycled. Ewan Jackson now burrowing forward. He's a robust and muscular character and manages just to get his shoulder into the heart of the Stuart's Melville defence. A little grubber pass there, just ricochets off the feet of Scott Stoddart, who was loitering on the shoulder, but it's fallen into Stuart's Melville custody as they retreat back into their 22 and kick it down the throat of Rio Batia, who's at fullback. A couple of bits of footwork there. He evades the first challenge from Curtis Williams and makes his way back into Stuart's Melville territory. Now Ross Brown takes the ball off Jack Harrison. Now going towards that touchline, looks slightly isolated, but the support was well there for Peebles, just on the 10 metre line. The ball just ghosting over the shoulder of Donald Anderson, but eventually Hodgkiss has got it under control inside centre, just making his way into the first team now, as Jack Harrison thinks he spots a little bit of space, and he has spotted it, that as he kicks it towards the corner. That box kick is brilliantly executed from centre field, and it bobbles just half a metre shy of the flag, which is just loitering on the try line there. And it's going to be a throw in to Stuart's Melville, but it's a brilliant bit of play there from the scrum half.
It most certainly was that. He's put that as close to the corner as it could possibly be without going touching Goldale. That was a wonderful kick by Harrison.
Yeah, really good. He's just an all-round, really good rugby player. He's really strong as well defensively. But his touches as well, his touches of brilliance there behind that set piece was brilliant, but it's been picked off at the tail of the line out by Roddy Guinea, and Peebles are over for the score. And just as Stuart's Melville looked to try and settle their ship inside their own half, they overthrew at the line out, and Roddy Guinea was at the tail just to pluck it off and then swan dive over the whitewash, and Peebles take the lead for the first time in this game.
Yeah, and that's all stemmed from the beauty of a kick by Jack Harrison. Overthrow, as you say, which has been unlike the Stumel hooker Hayden Hart so far. The one that he didn't want to get wrong was that one, but he did. It flopped into the grateful hands at Guinea, and he flopped over once again with pretty much unopposed.
Yeah, it'd be a difficult character to stop from 5 metres out, but there wasn't many takers to try and stop his run forward. A player who was in the age grade set up for national duties in his younger days, now back playing more regularly for Peebles, has set up this conversion attempt for Donald Anderson, right hand side of the uprights. He's had an earlier penalty in this game. Right-footed connection yet again. It's an early flag as well from James Fowler. He's happy with that. As soon as it came off the toe from Donald Anderson, and Peebles extend their lead now, and they lead 5 points to 10 with 11 minutes gone here at Inverleith.
And I would say on the balance of play, Dale, that's a deserved lead. What, we've got 7 or 8 minutes gone, and yeah, Peebles good value for this lead so far.
I think if one thing Graham Patterson does bring teams, I was speaking about what Peter Wright brings to teams during the week, obviously returning to last Wade. What Graham Patterson brings teams is a real direction and identity. He knows where he wants to play rugby, and you can see that game plan is in there, looking to kick, looking to try and pin Stuart's Melville back into their own area, invite the errors and then capitalise off of them, and they have done just that. And it's now Stuart's Melville to restart. It's gone straight to the try scorer, Roddy Guinea. He clutches it towards his chest and brings it to ground, and now John Napier receives the ball off the fringes. He's got a couple of teammates as well there just to help trundle him along and set up that passage of play. Donald Anderson and just lumps it into the sky. Got a couple of Peebles players chasing this forward, and it's been plucked by Hodgkiss. Dow is the player who's managed to get his hands on the ball, but there's been a little knock on in there because Jack Harrison was just going to kick that downfield yet again. So Stuart's Melville with nobody back, they're going to benefit from getting the put into the scrum here. And they'll be hoping to try and just enjoy some territory and some possession and time with the ball in hand.
Yeah, and it was exactly as you called it there, Dale, about the sort of, the Peebles game plan, if you like, two phases and then boot to ball, and it looked like Harrison was going to do the same again. And I don't think that's a bad tactic because with the best will in the world, this is National 3, and if you punt it down National 2, I beg your pardon, the sort of third tier, and if you punt it down the park, the recipient is more likely to make an error than they are at, in the professionals or the Premier even.
Yeah, the leagues are leagues for a reason.
Yeah.
The standards, they do sometimes diminish as you go through the leagues, but this has certainly been an intriguing encounter early on in this National 2 clash between Stuart's Melville and Peebles. We have had about 12 and a half minutes gone, and it is currently Stuart's Melville 5, Peebles 10. And Stuart's Melville looking to try and turn the tide now as Brodie Miller breaks through from a great set piece, but Ewan Jackson just hauling his opposite number towards his own try line. It was very unorthodox from the back row forward there, as he just handbagged the outside centre James Ferguson towards his own line.
It was an incredible chop tackle to start with, but then I sort of picked him up and dragged him halfway to Newhaven.
Yeah, Ewan Jackson still playing like he's an 18-year-old fresh-faced into the senior ranks, but at 34 he's certainly on the other end of his career, as Willie Aitken just trundles past him. Another player who's perhaps in the more twilight period of his rugby career. Enjoyed a lot of time here at STEWART'S-MELVILLE under Bruce McNaughton in years gone by, captain in the club, but now back at his old club in Peebles in familiar colours. Maybe an unfamiliar scrum cap for Willie Aitken, but it certainly helps him stand out from the crowd as he takes his position at the front of this line out. And STEWART'S-MELVILLE, through Hayden Hart, will be looking to find his target here. The second rows link up. The lifter at the front there, Ali Scott, Jamie Sword, the captain, gathers, and STEWART'S-MELVILLE then congeal around the ball carrier there, and it twists towards his side. Willie Aitken is tasked with making a challenge, bounces straight back up to his feet to try and jackal. I think he's perhaps come off second best in that encounter there, as Scott carries forward as well, just to take the momentum that little bit closer towards the Peebles line, but driven forward in the challenge there. It was Cammy Pye who just bundled Curtis Williams back, because it was a great tackle, a great carry as well from the STEWART'S-MELVILLE number 8. But Cammy Pye was certainly closing that door firmly on the back row forward for STEWART'S-MELVILLE. The referee has brought play to a halt just now. A little conversation with STEWART'S-MELVILLE, but defensively Peebles probably looking a little bit more assured, because that earlier score from Charlie Burrows certainly caught Peebles napping. But defensively, the likes of Jackson and Pye and Aitken there as well, putting in some good efforts.
Oh, definitely. They've got, the back five of this Peebles scrum. They get through an absolute power of work, and you're absolutely right. Some of the defensive duties there were right on point, and that in the fullness of this game, the fullness of time in this game, that early try might not be the worst thing that could happen to Peebles, because it's clearly focused to mine.
Well, just before the scrum starts again, we'll give you some latest score updates from the Premiership. Curry 7, Jed Forest 0, Inverleith 8, Musselburgh 0, Mar 3, Hoyt 0, an early penalty for them. Into National 1, it's Biggar 7, Ayr 14, Gala 0, GHA 5, Melrose 0, GHK 3, and into National League 2, it's Falkirk 12, Aberdeen Grammar 7, also obviously here at the moment, Stew-Mel 5, Peebles 10, and Hamilton 5, Allenglen 7 in Division 3.
So a little reshuffle from that little breakdown. Curtis Williams is going off, replaced by Dan McConkey. He's going to line up in the middle row. Ali Scott going into the back row, with Gregor Thompson now lining up at number 8 for STEWART'S-MELVILLE. So a little reshuffle there from the home side after that injury to Curtis Williams. We'll bring you information about that as and when we get it, but he certainly...
I think he's going for an HIA.
Has he? He certainly looked like he wasn't limping or showing any ill effects on his body, so he was being escorted from the field, so perhaps just getting some attention from the medical staff to make sure he is not showing any ill effects of that collision with Cameron Pye just a few moments ago. So about 15 minutes gone here at Inverleith. It's still STEWART'S-MELVILLE 5, Peebles 10. And from that scrum, there's going to be a penalty towards the home side. The referee not happy with that set piece. The front row of Aitken, Napier and Gray, almost coming off second best. And STEWART'S-MELVILLE have quickly signalled that they want to take a little pop at the sticks, and they're going to await for the tee to come on. And there's going to be a chance for Adam Fraser to get 3 points, narrow the margins here, and leave the 22 with some points on the board.
Yeah, Peebles had a bit of a shunt on there at that scrum, and I'm fully 50 metres away, and I don't profess to be an expert in the dark arcs anyway, but it didn't look an awful lot wrong with that from here. Maybe a wee bit hard done by, but it's an imminently kickable penalty for Stew-Mel nonetheless.
Inside centre, Adam Fraser just taking his time, lining up. He's just to the right hand side. It's ghosting round, and it just curls to inside the left hand of the uprights. I think it certainly looked like it was successful. They're making their way back to halfway line. So
it's a weird one, because none of the flags went up, but the referee whistled, and when the referee whistles, that's usually it. So yeah, that's an interesting one. It did go over, by the way.
It did go over. I did think that until I seen gestures at either side just to signal that it hadn't, but it definitely has. James Fowler on industrial action, not raising his flag for STEWART'S-MELVILLE by the looks of things, but it is a full 3-pointer there for STEWART'S-MELVILLE. So it's STEWART'S-MELVILLE 8 now, Peebles 10, with 17 minutes gone here at Inverleith. So the restart there went deep from Peebles. It's been knocked on as well. So again, an error deep inside Stuart's-Melville half is just going to add the pressure. And it's something that you definitely do not want to do after scoring points, is to just go back inside your own half and force the error and then invite the pressure back onto yourselves.
Yeah, and it was right down the breadbasket of, I think it was Willie Malcolm, the big blindside, who inexplicable almost, but brilliant attacking position again for Peebles, 5 metres inside the STEWART'S-MELVILLE 22 with plenty of open side to play with.
They'll be hoping not to give away any penalties here from that scrum, just giving away a penalty earlier on, which has actually led them to be in this position, because the penalty resulted in a kick at the post for Stuart's-Melville. It was successful, and this scrum looks solid, it looks strong, it's been controlled at the tail there by Roddy Guinea. And Jack Harrison now looking to try and pluck it off the base, but the referee just hoisting that straight arm into the air on the side of Peebles, so it's going to be a penalty. And I know what I'd be going for here. Robin, what are you thinking?
I'd go corner, but there might be a conversation about another scrum. They seem to have a bit of dominance there, but no, it's too close to the corner to not take it, Dale.
Yep, just nudged into the corner there by Jack Harrison, and it's been an accurate kick there. It's made John Napier run a bit for the ball. He's having to deploy his Collie Doug duties and get back onto the hill.
No ball boys over there.
Actually, you know,
he's halfway to New Haven.
Club captain Murdo Anderson actually started his career pretty much as the ball boy. We used to kick it at the posts, and he would line up in behind and retrieve the ball. And it's amazing to see how far he's come since those days. John Napier now taking up that mantle, but now it's on, and he's got to hit his target there. And that's a brilliant lift, a brilliant throw from Peebles. Stuart's-Melville trying to spoil this driving maul, but the momentum now starting to build for Peebles. It splinters off to the side. The referee happy with that. The momentum building. It's trundling towards the line. The referee signals the score, and Peebles get their second try of the afternoon. And it was accuracy from the line out. Great throw from John Napier, lifted by Roddy Guinea, and it's a score for Peebles. And it looks like Ewan Jackson is the last player to rise up from the bundle of bodies, and I wouldn't put it against the young, well, not the young, the small, the short, robust back row Ewan Jackson to have gotten that try from Peebles, and they extend their lead here at Inverleith.
What a great try. You won't see a more textbook line out then drive at any level of rugby anywhere this weekend. That was absolutely fantastic. Big sort of fillip and a big sort of feather in the cap for the Peebles forwards there.
It's the way it peeled off though, way it peeled off round the side, but was still able to build that momentum. It was really accurate, especially when earlier on they got caught out with Peebles got caught out with a similar driving maul by Stuart's-Melville.
Yeah, they've been impressive so far, Peebles. A couple of tries in the bag, and just a bit of daylight between the teams now. Kick to come.
And that kick is going to come from the boot of Donald Anderson, just connecting with the ball there, and it just glances in front of the post there. It's not successful, so he's not able to add the 2 points to that, which would take it beyond that converted score. It's now 7 points between the two sides. Stuart's-Melville 8, Peebles 15, 21 minutes gone here at Inverleith, and it is the team from the Gites who hold a slender advantage, and there's going to be a slight little break as both teams on this blisteringly hot day in this Scotland's capital, they're going to take on the water. But it's been an interesting game so far. Peebles obviously got caught cold with that penalty, but it was almost exactly what they probably needed, because from there they've grown, they've looked cohesive in defence, but in attack as well they've looked accurate.
They look a well coached outfit, Dale, and you're right. And as I said before, that in the fullness of time, that try might be just the best thing that could have happened, because it's certainly meant that Peebles are not going to spend the rest of the game resting on their laurels. And as I said before, they're good value for this lead so far. I see Curtis, the number 8, Curtis Williams, back on the touchline, so he's hopefully going to re-enter the fray shortly.
So a bit of a water break going on there, and you can't blame them for that. Probably the first water break in September at Inverleith in history. But let's have a quick look at the scores up and down the country at the moment. Not too many of them, I have to say, but it's Curry 7, Jed Forest 0 at Maleny Park, Inverleith 8, Musselburgh 0 at Rayburn Place, which isn't a million miles from here. Glasgow Hawks and Selkirk still no score at Balgray. Kelso and Heriots, Blues, nothing happening there. Mar 9, Hawick 0. That's 3 penalties and a yellow card, so a bad start for Hawick. Mar going well at Fullerton Park, 9 points to 0. National 1, it's Bigger 7, Ayr 21 now. A brace for Ben Frame, 3 tries already for Ayr at Hartree Mill. Gala 7, GHA 5, Highland 5, Watsonians 0, and it is still no score between Melrose and GHK.
You're not very confident with the.
There's GHA and GHK today.
We're going to have to get some alphabetic spaghetti in Stuart Cameron's shopping basket this week to do some work with GHA, GHK, and obviously Glasgow Accies in that league as well. But it's a full action-packed weekend of Scottish club rugby here, and obviously the Rugby World Cup kicking off as well with Scotland versus South Africa tomorrow. It's certainly a big weekend for Scottish club rugby. And Stewart's-Melville have got playback underway here at Inverleith. It's 21 minutes gone here. And Peebles are going to get a put into the scrum. A knock on there as Stewart's-Melville try to leap to get the ball back on their side. But it just resulted in a knock on back into the midst now of Jack Harrison, who's loitering by the tunnel of the scrum on the 15-metre line, just shy of the 10 as well. An attractive position for Peebles to be in, but it's not that attractive because Willie Aitken is now having a conversation with the referee after he has awarded a penalty against his side, and it's Stewart's-Melville who again benefit from the penalty from the scrum.
Yeah, it's a couple of times now that Peebles have looked like they've had that bit of a shunt on, and the penalty's gone the other way. So yeah, there must be something going on in there, Dale.
It'll be interesting to see the gesturing from the referee and maybe the conversations that are going to be had for the rest of this game, because that will be an interesting facet of this game. Peebles certainly look like they've got a sizable advantage up front, but it's not going to matter a jot if they can't get the ball out of the back of the scrum. And now we're throwing the line out deep inside the 22. Hart now throws to the tail. Sword's not able to gather, but it flaps back on a Stewart's-Melville side. McConkey is the player that carries forward. And Stewart's-Melville looking to try and go through some phases now as Sword carries. He's bundled to ground by a couple of Peebles players. One of them, Ewan Jackson, who is wrapping lowest. Jack Harrison now riding a little bit high there in the challenge, and it's been stripped. John Napier now gathers the ball, and it's opened up for the hooker. And he just bundles himself to the ground. He thought it opened up there, but I think 80 yards for John Napier might be a sizable task for the hooker, replacing Matty Carrier in the starting lineup this afternoon. But he's done well to gather the ball. Now back into the hands of Kyle Henderson, experienced fly half, and he has been just cowped on his back by the onrushing Peebles defence. And defence is obviously winning at the moment for Peebles. That one try they've conceded so far, getting caught cold. It looks like the scrum half there, Charlie Burrows, has just went over on his ankle as well there as Jack Harrison spots that there's nobody in behind. Stewart's-Melville look all at sea as Peebles are looking to try and put pressure on the home side in their own territory. Some playing out from deep now. It has opened up for Stewart's-Melville. A counter-attack, some good interlinking play as Bowen just evades the clutches and the tackles coming on there from Peebles. Stewart's-Melville from inside their own 22 managed to get up towards the halfway line. It's a carry forward from Ferguson. He's going lateral, but it's eventually been knocked forward. Napier gathers, but the referee says that there's been a hand in there by Peebles, so the penalty is going to go to Stewart's-Melville. Penalty count creeping up for Peebles, but there has been an injury there to Charlie Burrows, who's been an impressive component in the Stewart's-Melville side, but the scrum half looked like he'd just rolled his ankle, retreating away from that breakdown earlier on in that passage of play.
The first man in there clearly.
He did, yeah. He looks like he's had a bit of a sore one, and yeah, he's receiving the medical attention at the moment. But you're right, the penalty's just starting to rack up against Peebles, and they don't want to give away too many more because the referee will start to think about a yellow, and that just it just gives away territory to Stew-Mel as they inch down the field with these kicks.
Right, let's have some latest scores, some interesting ones coming in here. Curry 7, Jed Forrest 0, Emrackies 8, Musselburgh 0, we know. But now it's Mar 16, Hoyk 0. 16-0 to Hoyk, that's a Blair Jardian try to add to the 3 penalties from Colin Sturgeon. So Hoyk up against it with their unbeaten record stretching back a long way. 16-0 at the moment at Fullerton Park. International 1, Biggar have pulled 3 points back. It's Biggar 10, Ayr 21, Gala 7, GHA 5, Highland 5, Watsonians 0, Melrose 7, GHK 0. That's a Thomas Brown try converted by Struan Hutchison, and I think that's doubled now. It's now 14-0. I'm hearing at the Green Yards. We'll be crossing over to Sam Matthews very, very soon, and he'll update us on what's happening there. International 2, Falkirk 17, Aberdeen Grammar 7, and 3 tries in the bag for Falkirk already. Here at Stew-Mel 8, Peebles 15. In National 3, Hamilton 5, Allen Glen 7 is the latest score we have. And let's dip into East League 1 for a moment, because Langham have taken the lead against Royal High. It's now Langham 7, Royal High 5.
It does look like Charlie Burrows' race might be run, because he's limping off on that left leg of his. It certainly looked like his ankle was rolled as he was just retreating away from
Yeah, you ready?
the ruck there earlier on in the game. You hear the referee is just getting play back underway, so it's a penalty centre field to Stuart's-Melville on the halfway line. Kick downfield there by Adam Fraser, and it's into touch, and it's just shy of the Peebles 22. So again, Stuart's-Melville chapping at the door, and there's going to be a replacement at scrum half. So Jake Burns is the player coming on to replace that scrum half. And there has been no return to the field for Curtis Williams, although he is still in the dugout. He's got his right ankle strapped up as well. But from the line out, well gathered by Stuart's-Melville. It's not contested there. Willie Aitken has just swarmed his way into the back of that maul and picked the pocket of Stuart's-Melville, not competing. And Willie Aitken showing his experience.
Showing a brilliant awareness of the laws as well.
Brilliant awareness of the laws. It's a really convoluted area of the game, the maul, and how to protect the player and the ball carrier and how you can defend and attack. But Willie Aitken showing a lot of intelligence there, just not to even look to compete against that maul and just waltz his way round and just get himself straight into the heart of a Stuart's-Melville maul. Something he's quite familiar with. He's familiar with attacking from that side of a Stu-Mel maul, but this time picking the pocket and a bit of espionage there from Willie Aitken.
That's exactly what it was. It's, as you said before, it was all his experience, and it's just bought that little bit of sort of leeway or that little bit of respite rather for Peebles, because we mentioned before the penalties were just starting to rack up a wee bit, and with that becomes a loss of territory. So the scrums went pretty well for Peebles thus far, so you'd expect them or hope that they would exit fairly straightforwardly from here.
Embrackey's 13, Musselburgh 7 is the latest score now. We've heard Mar 16, Hoyt 0 if you've just joined us. That's a big scoreline at the moment from Fullerton Park. Biggar have got a try back against Ayr. Biggar 15, Ayr 21, and Gala 7, GH 5, Melrose 14, GHK 0.
Scrum down inside the Peebles 22. They will not want to give away a penalty here. The nudge coming on from Stuart's-Melville.
You're not going anywhere. Stay.
The referee signalling that this one is successful. Jack Harrison just peeling away from that scrum, kicks it downfield, and he's made a great distance with that kick. It's well gathered on that far side. Brodie Miller is the player now, arcing his run centre field straight into Hodgkiss there. Ewan Jackson, who's had a great bursting run to get back into position. Now Stuart's-Melville have got loads of pitch to play with, but not able to use that overlap. Scott Stoddart just wrapping up the opposite man as Kadari was just looking to try and make inroads and go round at the Peebles winger. He's come off second best there as well, but made an important tackle as the ball is tipped on. John Napier has just plucked it. Ross Brown's just plucked it. An interception. It's now a chase back here. Jake Burns looking to try and get the second row. Peebles need to get support there quickly. He does a great job in presenting the ball back 6 or 7 metres shy of the Stuart's-Melville line. Donald Anderson now floats the ball. A big looping pass to Cameron Pye. He flies it into the hands of Neil Pate, and Peebles go in for a third try. And great awareness from Ross Brown. Interception from the towering second row. Not able to show his pace from his days as a centre. He was hacked down to ground there by Jake Burns, but great width from Peebles to get it into the hands of Neil Pate, and he scores a try in the corner, and it went against the run of play Robin, but brilliant score.
Absolute body blow for Stu Mel that Dale, because they had numbers on this near side right in front of us, and it was a wonderful interception. You had to guddle it, you had to juggle it, the big second row, and off he went. 30 metres, 40 metres, he was hauled down. They've went wide. There was a couple of brilliant passes in there, and all that while a couple of Peebles players were lame. Actually, Stoddart had made the big shot and he came off second best, while Jack Harrison looks like he's got a shoulder. So it was essentially 13-man Peebles at that. All credit to them.
It will be a big blow if Jack Harrison has to perhaps go off the field of play. There's not really a lot of players in that starting lineup that can perhaps deputise at scrum half. Donald Anderson is one of them. It would mean there'd be a monumental shift in the Peebles back division. And Jack Harrison getting a little bit of attention there as Donald Anderson on the 22 takes the conversion. It's a looping kick there. It's not accurate this time either, so it's not a full complement of 7 points again for Peebles, but the 3 tries in the bag. They now lead after 32 minutes by 20 points to 8, and it's going to see the introduction of Murdo Anderson here, and interested to see who he is going to be replacing. I do wonder if he'll maybe line up in the centre with Donald Anderson going to scrum half, and in the meantime Jack Harrison will just be in the physio room getting some attention as Stuart's-Melville kick back downfield. Roddy Guinea, who got try scoring for Peebles underway, gathers the ball and scampers away from his own 22. It's been picked by Ross Brown through the heart, offloaded to Willie Aitken, who makes his way up to the halfway line, looking to try and keep his arm free, but does well to get the ball back. He's on his back, the prop, but he does well to present. Donald Anderson spotting some space over the winger and turning his opposite man. And great play there from Donald Anderson, who's playing at fly half, to just turn the winger. And Brodie Miller had to about turn and try and keep that ball in play, but it just trundled off shy of the 22, and that's how you want to play. After you've scored some points, you want to try and keep that momentum going, get back into the opposition's half again, and that's textbook from Peebles.
Brilliant. Again, just poof the leather off it and get it back down the park, and that's exactly what they did. A great kick there, and it's taking them right up to the 22, and the pressure back again on Stu Mel.
Hayden Hart to throw in. He hits Sword, he's brought down, and the rest of the forwards congregate at that broken down maul. Ewan Jackson has just been asked to just fill in the pocket there as the box kick from Jake Burns goes downfield. Pate, the most recent try scorer, gathers and now makes his way towards the halfway line. He throws a very innocuous pass there to Roddy Guinea, but he does well to gather and ride the challenge. Ewan Jackson, who's perhaps going to be at scrum half now, a player who has played a bit of scrum half back in the day, he distributes to Donald Anderson, but the referee just signalling that there's an accidental offside, as you can hear.
Accidental offside.
Donald Anderson, who was kicking downfield, it just came off the back of a Peebles teammate.
A quick update here: Curry 7, Jed Forest 0, Embrackish 20, Musselburgh 7, Kelso 14, Heriots Blues 5 at Poynter Park, Mar 16, Hoyk 0 still the score. National 1, it's Bigger 15, Ayr 21, Gala 7, GHA 5, Highland 15 now, Watsonians 0, and Melrose have got the try bonus. It's Melrose 26, GHK 0.
That's a very interesting score, the GHK score, after the result against Bigger last weekend. Melrose are putting in an emphatic performance at the Greenyards. Peebles are another team who have put in a good performance in the first half hour. 20 points to 8 leaders here at Inverleith against Stuart's-Melville, and from that scrum are able to turn it round. Murdo Anderson offloading to Roddy Guinea as they make their way over the halfway line. 5 metres shy of touch as Willie Aitken has to play as the auxiliary scrum half, and Peebles again physical in the challenge, getting their knees to the ground to make sure the referee calls that passage of play over. Napier acting as the pivot through the hands well from Hodgkiss. He finds James Dow, passing to Batty, and he is looking to try and make his way in towards Stuart's-Melville territory again, but Batty are not able to evade the challenge. Ewan Jackson, slow and play down. Not a traditional scrum half, but feeds his captain Murdo Anderson, but gets there quickly. The engine that Jackson has allows him to do that as Anderson spots some space on that far side, and if that was to bounce in another way, that could have been a very fortunate bounce for Peebles, because it didn't look like Stuart's-Melville and Jake Burns and Brodie Miller were getting back in a hurry. And Neil Pate was there, and also Roddy Guinea. So again, Peebles just able to play the width, but not really with the ball in hand, with the boot.
No, it's they're exemplary with the boot so far, Dale. And this is, you look at a wing forward, Ewan Jackson. I had a close eye on him there. This is not a Bergamasco situation at all. He had three bullet passes right into the breadbasket, and yeah, he looks to the manner born. Did you mention before, did he play a bit in his time?
Yeah, there was a time where Drew Moore left, and it was a scrum half. Peebles were needing a scrum half, and they had to pick between me and Ewan Jackson, and it was almost like there's many an analogy, but we'll leave that there, because Peebles have got the ball down at the maul, and Ewan Jackson, who's playing scrum half at the moment, he's adding his bulk to that drive and maul as well. The scrum half getting engulfed, but it peels away. The players pirouette and then go against the grain and set up the ruck on the blind side there as Peebles are arcing forward. And good play as Stuart's-Melville try just to make a mess of it. Inside there is Collins as he carries forward. He's brought down round the fringes of that ruck as Peebles keep the pressure on. Murdo Anderson now picking and going. Recently married, Murdo Anderson is obviously rejuvenated and back in the starting line, back in the team now. He's made his way off the bench as John Gray now carries forward. Ewan Jackson plucking off the base, finds Ross Brown as he offers his back towards the Stuart's-Melville defenders, but the ball is still back on a Peebles side. Again, pumping the legs forward. It's 7 or 8 phases now Peebles have went through. Murdo Anderson just loitering, looking to try and dig that ball out, carries forward, just ducks that right shoulder close towards that line, but just not able to stretch forward at all. And then another attempt coming there from Ross Brown, not able to get close enough towards that line. They'll go again there through Roddy Guinea. He squeezes through.
I've got no view of that. We're going to go back for the penalty over there.
He goes through the array of bodies, but the referee signalling that he could not see what was going on there, and Peebles will get the penalty.
Captain.
And the referee just want a conversation with the captain here.
Murdo, there's an option. There was an offside there, and then there was one just short of the poles there. So which one would you like?
Take the scrum here, sir.
Okay. Thank you. There's an offside there as well. They take the scrum.
Good communication between the referee and the captain, and a very good option there from Murdo Anderson. This opens up the field because this scrum is more centre field, about 5-6 metres shy of the Stuart's-Melville line.
Absolutely, and you'd fancy them from here, wouldn't you? Peebles are winning the physical battle quite comfortably now, and this is about as plumb an attacking position as you're ever likely to have.
Ewan Jackson with number 7 on his back has been playing very well at scrum half for the last 5 minutes or so, as he's been asked to deputise for Jack Harrison, who had to get a little bit of running repairs to his glass shoulder. So Ewan Jackson just on the 5 metre line, just ready to just introduce this ball back into play and roll it into the tunnel. The scrum solid again from Peebles. The referee just signalling that the ball is needing used now. It's been picked up at the tail. Roddy Guinea just brushes off the first challenge, then almost gets towards the line. The referee spotting.
And it's rolled forward to the scrum.
The referee signalling that there's a knock on in there, so the opportunity for the bonus point try from Peebles passes them by on this occasion, and it's going to be a put into the scrum to Stuart's-Melville.
Let's go to the Green Yard. Sam Matthews.
And Melrose have just scored their 5th try of the afternoon. Struan Hutchison getting a try alongside his now 4 conversions in the afternoon. The score currently stands at 33-0 to the home side Melrose.
Quite extraordinary scoreline there. Curry 7, Jed Forest 0, Inverleith 20, Musselburgh 7 in the Premiership. Still waiting on news from Glasgow Hawks against Selkirk. Kelso 14, Heriots Blues 5 is latest score, and Hawick have got a try back. It's now Mar 16, Hawick 5, and Mar down to 14 men. Quickly tell you, National 1, Bigger 15, Ayr 21, Gala 14 now, Gala 5, Highland 15, Watsonians 0, and as we've just heard from Sam Matthews, Melrose 33, GHK 0.
Murdo Anderson is now replaced by Jack Harrison. He'll take his place back at scrum half. Ewan Jackson will go back into the back row, but it's a defensive scrum here for Stuart's-Melville. The nudge coming on from Peebles, a bit of pressure here for Jake Burns to deal with, and the penalty goes the way of the visitors. Peebles getting the penalty there. Ewan Jackson looking to take this quickly. Donald Anderson taps and goes. He looks to try and feed a supporting player on his shoulder, but just not able to. Perhaps the gung-ho attitude of Peebles here might just play against them just now, but they burrow their way towards the line yet again. The relentless pressure from the men from the Guides is coming on, and the referee has signalled that there's a try in there as well. And Ross Brown is the player who is getting the slaps on the back from Willie Aitken, and it is the 4th try for Peebles. And it is very one-sided here at Inverleith, but it probably wasn't. It wasn't probably going to go on the old highlights reel there in terms of the try itself, but it was good awareness in the end, and they rolled the dice. They took the gamble, taking the quick penalty, and it paid off for Peebles.
Oh, definitely, and yeah, it's maybe no one for the highlights reel, that one, but you can put it down to the Peebles forwards, because they've been uber dominant in this last sort of 10-15 minutes, and as I've said all through the game, Peebles very good for this lead.
No, they'll be just about 3. No. So there was a scrum where I called to use it. Yeah. But it's because your back row dropped to the knees, otherwise it would have to reset. Oh, right. Okay, that's why I called it.
See when you say use it, it's just once, isn't it, and going. It's not like a mole. No. It's just straight away.
Yeah, straight away, otherwise it's resets and nobody wants that.
Jack Harrison just getting some clarity from the official, just as his fly half, Donald Anderson, he splits the Kinlan with a conversion attempt to make sure that Peebles get the full complement of 7 points this time, now leading 27 points to 8 here at Inverleith. It has been a brilliant first 40 minutes for Peebles. We've got a couple of minutes left in this first half, and they'll be hoping to get down the tunnels at half time and make sure that they don't concede any more points.
Oh, definitely. High kickoffs come in there, and again, just the Peebles forwards, men possessed at the moment.
Brilliantly gathered there by Ross Brown, just blob on the 10 metre line. And Jack Harrison again just opting to box kick it downfield. He gets so much height on that, but asking Scott Stoddart where is the chase, because there was no winger there, and it gives a chance for Bowen just to break free of his own area, and now linking in with Kadari, who's scampering back in towards Peebles territory. Ewan Jackson is the bomb disposal officer there, as he just throws his body on the ball and just engulfs himself on the ground, and making sure that there's no bobble and ricocheting ball to go into the hands of Stuart's-Melville. And Peebles now get territory, possession back on their side. Jack Harrison feeds to Willie Aitken. He gets through the gears and gets the legs pumping towards that 10 metre line. Very uncontested there at the ruck, but Donald Anderson now gathers, kicks downfield. He looks to split the fullback. Bowen, who's got the ball in his hands, has been an impressive full-back counter-attacking runner, and he kicks downfield. He's able to turn Donald Anderson. The ball is bobbling towards the 5 metre line inside a Peebles 22. Donald Anderson, a traditional little hop before he kicks it downfield, and he's done well, but it's been gathered by the fly half Kyle Henderson on the touch line. He goes over Donald Anderson, but he's not able to go over the next speed bump of I think it looked like John Gray. It's actually Ewan Jackson yet again who is there providing the defensive cover for Peebles. Now Jake Burns looks to find his tight head prop in Stephen Spowart. Ball getting a little bit wider now through Scott. Stewart's-Melville now going against the grain through Ferguson. He scythes through the defensive line for Peebles into the 22. He's been wrapped up there by James Dow, but the Stewart's-Melville attacker staying tall in the challenge into the hands of the hooker Hart. He's got Sword for support, but he's not opting to use him that time. He then does eventually give it to one of his front row community in Mason Moyer. Ball's out there in the scrum half, able to evade the first couple of challenges, but John Napier does well to wrap up the counter-attacking scrum half. They've been caught cold once by a snarly little scrum half, not on that occasion, as Ewan Jackson gets in there again to
back for penalties.
Turn over the ball.
Captain,
referee.
Is a penalty there for on the ground, or a penalty close to the 22 for a high tackle? Not this one.
Referee again giving the same options to Stewart's-Melville as he afforded to Peebles earlier on in the game, but defensively I think Peebles have been pretty strong, but Ewan Jackson has been immense in this opening 40 minutes here.
Yeah, he's been probably the pick of the bunch, and that's saying something because there's a few men that could put their hand up for that accolade. He's been absolutely sensational so far, absolute live wire.
Kicked out into touch, so it's a throw into the line out for Stewart's-Melville. Hayden Hart just takes his position.
Keep responsive as well, right?
And just on the touch line there, last conversations with Mason Moyer. He throws into the line out. It's not gathered again, and it's went to the tail. Roddy Guinea just kicks it downfield because it's open prairie. Nobody back there, and it is the number 8 who is leading the charge. He's been joined by James Dow, but Kidari gets back for Stewart's-Melville, the right winger, and he skews a kick off field, knowing that he has to exit stage left because there was absolutely nothing on, and the referee brings the first half to a close, and it has been a fruitful first half for Peebles here. They have got the bonus point in the bag. They've got the 4 tries, but it was Stewart's-Melville who got off to a great start. Charlie Burrows got the opening try from a maul, which eventually became a penalty. He took the quick penalty, arced his run into the corner, but responsive tries from Roddy Guinea, Ross Brown and Neil Pate in there as well, and also Ewan Jackson. A penalty and a couple of conversions from Donald Anderson to add means that at half-time here at Inverleith in National 2 on Rugby Radio, it is Stewart's-Melville 8, Peebles 27.
More from the boys very, very shortly. We'll have a look at the half-times as well. We can go now to Netherdale, though. Andrew Fleming is there. It's Gala against GHA.
Nearing the half-time whistle here at Netherdale, and Gala hold a 9-point advantage. It was the visitors who went in front on 5 minutes with a breakaway score from winger Sean Carden, but despite many frustrations and errors from the home side, they now find themselves in front courtesy of converted scores from Jack Easton and Scott Peppers. It's a scrappy affair here, but the hosts are in front. Gala 14, GHA 5.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
It certainly is. Live from Inverleith. Some surprising scorelines coming in today. Half-time in many of the matches. I can tell you that it's Curry 28, Jed Forest 0. So Curry already wrapping up the bonus point at Millennium Park in that one in the Premiership. Edinburgh Accies 27, Musselburgh 10. So a bonus point already for Accies. Glasgow Hawks 19, Selkirk 7 at half-time. That's a match being played at Balgray. Kelso 14, Heriots Blues 5 is a latest score, and Mar 16, Hoyk 5 at the moment. Into National 1, it's Bigger 15, Ayr 21. Still waiting on Glasgow Accies against Dundee. Highland 15, Watsonians 0. A big turnaround after last week when Watsonians put 69 points on Gala. And Melrose 40, GHK 0 at half-time is quite an extraordinary scoreline at the moment. International 2, it's Falkirk 31, Aberdeen Grammar 19 at half-time. Nothing in from Gordonians, Kirkcaldy or Lasswade Newton Stewart as yet, but here of course it's Stewart's-Melville 8, Peebles 27 is the half-time scoreline, and we're still waiting on Stirling County against Berwick. International 3, all we've got for you at the moment, Hamilton 15, Allen Glens 26. Couple in the East League though, East League 1, it's half-time Langham scoring their try bonus in that one against Royal High. Currently 28 points to 5 to Langham at half-time, and a half-time scoreline in East League 2 is Hoyt Lindeen 3, Dalkeith 3. So of course in National 2 I believe it's 5 minutes for half-time rather than the 10 that we're used to in the Premiership. Going to bring back Robin Purdie here, and certainly quite a sensational first half for Peebles.
Oh, they've been absolutely electric, haven't they? They've as the first half wore on, they became so dominant up front, and the STEWART'S-MELVILLE cause not aided by injuries to Curtis Williams, who went off early, and then Charlie Burrows, who looked like he had a bit about him, scored a good try in the opening seconds. But yeah, Peebles have just exerted that dominance, and they're just such good value for the win. They've forwards and backs working in unison. They all want to carry. They all look hungry for the ball, and that's what's happened. That's what happens as you approach a bonus point by half time. You all want a piece of the action.
Well, their head coach Alex Haggard is not here today, but his stand-in Andrew Kelly will be rather disappointed with that. What will he be talking about in that huddle over there on the left-hand side?
I think they just need to try and regroup and find a because they had more than a foothold in this game early on. They got off to the quick try, but I don't think those two injuries have helped them. To be honest, Stuart, and it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle from here. So I think he's just going to have to. His message will probably be we score first and then we go from there. Because if people score first in this half, probably any type of score, then to me it's game over.
But we have seen a lot of mistakes from STEWART's-MELVILLE. I mean, at least 2 of the tries against them came from mistakes.
Yeah, one of them was a line out, a slight overthrow from the hooker, who otherwise has played pretty well, and his thrown-in's been bang on the money other than that one particular effort. But yeah, they've made mistakes. It's a really warm day, as we've discussed, and the time of the season it is. There's still going to be cohesion issues, if you like, but yeah, they need to find something from somewhere, and it'll need to be in the first 5 or 6 minutes, you feel.
Okay, it's half-time at the Greenyards then. We mentioned it, Melrose 40, GHK 0, and we can rejoin Sam Matthews.
Half-time at the Greenyards, and the score is Melrose 40, GHK 0. 6 tries for the home side in that first 40 there. Thomas Brown, Hamish Weir, Rolly Brett, Will Ferry, Struan Hutchison and Finn Barry in that order going over the whitewash. Struan Hutchison converting 5 of his 6 kicks. What a real contrast from the first 15 minutes where GHK were walking up and down the park with ease but got no points in that pressure time. Half-time at the Greenyards, Melrose 40, GHK 0.
Okay, it's half-time over here. They're on the pitch, ready to restart. Donald Anderson has the ball in his hands. Let's rejoin Robin Purdie and Dale Clancy.
A few changes at half-time for Peebles. You can see Neil Hogarth, Murdo Anderson and Lewis Brotherston are on. Willie Aitken, Scott Stoddart, and I'm going to guess the other one would perhaps be Ewan Jackson, but I'm yet to see that if he's still out on the field. But a few changes for Peebles, and we'll bring confirmation of those changes as we get them. But they've kicked downfield, and it's been gathered there by Brotherston, his first touch of the ball in this game. He feeds it to Guinea, who's looking to try and weave his way over the halfway line. Eventually he manages just to sneak over that whitewash, but he's been hauled down, and now Murdo Anderson returning to the field after an early replacement for Jack Harrison. Carries forward, and Ross Brown now picks and goes, and he tries to just give the ball to Jack Harrison in a congested area, but it's just been bundled forward into the hands of Stuart's-Melville. They look to try and break free from deep inside their own half, and Adam Fraser is the player tasked with that duty. Now Jake Burns feeds to the hooker Hart into the hands of the experienced fly half Henderson, and now Stuart's-Melville looking to try and break free just to float that ball forward, and again the relentless Peebles defence just forcing that error from the home side. And it's again been one of those starts. It's early on, we're only 50 seconds or so into this second half, but you can see already just how composed Peebles look compared to Stuart's-Melville.
Yep, we've picked up right where we left off. Peebles looking very comfortable in defence, very organised. They've made changes, but nothing. They've made changes, but nothing changes, if you like.
I think the other replacement there that we can see is that Rudy Smith has come on for John Napier, and Ewan Jackson is the player to have gone off. I can just see him right in front of us going to the physio bag, and rightfully so, because he's had an energetic opening first 40 minutes here at Inverleith. He's been withdrawn. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see him later on in this game.
Keep the space.
You'd be wanting back out if you were him, the way he was playing.
No, definitely. Yeah, he's a great player. He started playing rugby in the centre. He was an inside centre, then made his way to the back row. A little bit of time at scrum half as well, but definitely back row as his position. Was always one of those players at that time where rugby changed that he was always given a hard time for size, and people just didn't think he was tall enough. But he was a phenomenal rugby player in his younger days as well, and perhaps was just overlooked, pardon the pun, but overlooked because of his size. But they put into the scrum there for Peebles. It's managing to go its way forward. The likes of Rudy Smith and Neil Hogarth showing their effects at that scrum as Anderson links up with the centres out the back. A familiar move from the Geits. Releases Batia now. The full-back is now looking to try and make an impression on this Stuart's-Melville defence. Harrison plucks the ball off the ground and gives it to Anderson. The friends off the field, and a good connection on the field as well, as Harrison now goes against the grain. Looks to try and chip over the top of the inside centre there for Stuart's-Melville, but just been plucked off. But it's going to come back for the penalty. High challenge there, so Peebles knew they had the free ball to play with. But that perhaps might be one of the errors that come into the Peebles game, is that they feel they've got a little bit too much liberty to play rugby.
Possibly, I think in fairness to Harrison there, he did know that the penalty was coming his way, so he went for the Hollywood play. Then it's going to be he to kind of nudge it down into the 22 with the penalty. He's done exactly that. But yeah, I can't see, with the way the second half started, Dale, I can't see anything other than more Peebles tries, if I'm being honest.
It was about a year ago when we were here for Stuart's-Melville versus Kelso in National 1, and it was a really energetic and entertaining first 40 minutes from the visiting team, and eventually the home team managed to get their way back into the game. So Peebles will be hoping it's not a repeat of that sort of passage of play, as they find themselves inside the Stuart's-Melville 22. At the tail, hoisted is Ross Brown, who really not needed to be hoisted that high because it went and it was collected around his midriff, but the replacement there, Rudy Smith, is just packed down at the tail of this driving maul. It was effective in the first half, and the bodies filter forward, and it's still trundling towards that line. 10 metres it's gained, it's got 5 metres to go. It's starting to crab towards the left hand side. It's been collapsed on the ground, and Peebles start the second half with a try. The jubilation there from Neil Hogarth, but it is the replacement, Rudy Smith, the hooker, that threw into the line out. He rises last from the bundle of bodies, and he gets a score straight off the bench, and it's now Peebles 32, Stuart's-Melville 8.
I said in the first half, Dale, you probably won't see a better line out catch and drive for a try. I'm just going to pack up and go home, to be honest, because what do I know, that was every bit as good, if not better. That was another tremendous bit of play by the Peebles forwards.
It was different though. It was a different driving maul to the first one.
It was tighter.
The first one had a little bit of imagination to it in terms of shifting the point of target. That was brute force, and you can see the replacement there, Rudy Smith, added the size as well as Neil Hogarth coming in there as well. It was different, but that's, it's a positive thing if Peebles are looking. They've got that weapon that they can shape and form to different defences. But at the moment, Donald Anderson, lining up in the conversion just inside the 22, just taps it over the crossbar, and it is another conversion there for Donald Anderson, adding 2 points to that score. 44 minutes gone here, only 4 minutes in the second half, and Peebles stretch their lead here, and that is a sizable margin of an advantage that Peebles currently have against a side we perhaps thought over the form last weekend it might have been a little bit closer, but again just kicked down the throat of Ross Brown from the restart. He gathers well, another player who's moved position over time in a Peebles jersey, and Jack Harrison now just looking to kick downfield. He's managed to just accurately put that in the right position as Pate has to go round the ankles of the on-rushing Willie Malcolm. Burns distributes to Henderson. Henderson looks to find Bowen, who's up in the attacking line. It eventually went into the hands of Ferguson, who just goes through the gears and gets the cogs turning and just directly goes towards the Peebles line. He's been brought down to ground in the passage of play, now goes centre field as Burns distributes to Henderson. Henderson finds Sword, he carries forward and presents the ball back as he's tackled well by the Peebles forwards. Now Malcolm, he was almost stopped there by Ali Scott, who was almost running into his attacking line. The players offering themselves up, better shape here from Stuart's-Melville as Mason Moyer. And Jack Harrison is the player being penalised here. A free ball to play with for Stuart's-Melville. A kick there from Adam Fraser, the vice-captain. Releases Bowen, who pirouettes out of contact. Stuart's-Melville now up towards the Peebles 22. This is better from the home side. Burns finds Henderson. Henderson looks to try and cross-field this and put it into the hands of Kidari, but it's just drifted over the touchline there. But it's a lot more positive there from the home side.
It wasn't. Good incision there by the fullback Ewan Bowen, who's probably been the pick of the bunch this afternoon as far as the home team are concerned. But that's a bit more like it. It's just a shame it took another Peebles try to almost spur them into action in this second half.
A couple of latest scores here. It's Kelso 14, Heriots Blues 12 now. Heriots Blues getting a converted try back there in Poynter Park. Falkirk 52, Aberdeen Grammar 19 is a latest score on that one. And the only other change I think in the scoreline so far is with Bigger 15, Ayr 28. So Ayr getting the try bonus.
Interesting results coming around the country. Certainly starting to see a clearer picture of the demographic of the leagues in National Rugby this season. Stuart's-Melville will be hoping to try and narrow the margins here. Off the top they managed to find Burns. Burns then distributes to Henderson. Henderson just feeds it on to Gregor Thompson, who was arriving at pace. And now Sword is round the corner looking just to slice through the Peebles defence, but not able to. He's been blunted just short of the 5 metre line. Going round the corner now is Hayden Hart, the hooker, who's managed to get himself into a good position. The penalty advantage coming for Stuart's-Melville, and it looks like the scrum half is going to sneak through. Jake Burns has just scorched through for a try. The referee is going to have to try and calm this down. Sorry about the language there from one of the Peebles back rowers. I'm not going to tell you it was the Peebles number 8, but the referee having to get things under control. And there's going to be a conversation between him and Murdo Anderson.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, try was scored and you kept holding on to that player on the ground. As a captain, that's unacceptable. So I'm going to penalise you, and we restart with a penalty in the halfway. I don't want to see any more. All right? Okay. You lead by example, or otherwise I'm going to deal with your players. End of.
Very fair from the referee, I think.
Can you come out a bit further, please?
Especially that he's laying down the laws in terms of how he wants to help this game be managed, because referees look to their captains to help instill that discipline, and Murdo Anderson was just straight under the referee's nose there, and obviously he's fallen foul, and it's going to, after this conversion attempt, the try, conversion, and that is probably the worst error to give away straight after conceding points. Conversion attempt coming on from Adam Fraser, just to the right hand side of the uprights. A relatively straightforward attempt for the inside centre. It's successful as well. So 7 points there for Stuart's-Melville means 15 points to 34 they now trail. They're going to start this next passage of play with a penalty, but a good officiating there from the referee, I would say.
I thought that was brilliant officiating, Dale, and it made Murdo Anderson, dare I say it, he almost looked from here a wee bit sheepish as he trundled back towards the try line, and they've gone down the touchline with that, and again good territory gained by Stu-Mel, and just gives people something to think about again.
Yeah, because you would think another try from Stuart's-Melville in quick succession. You know, we've got half an hour of this game left. That might, spark a little bit of life into this home side. The home crowd, the home support might get behind their side and really charge them over the line. But Peebles need to make sure they keep discipline, and it is what we said. There was almost too much of a liberty to play rugby, play expansively. And they're letting ill-discipline come into their game. Stuart's-Melville now throw to the tail, and that is one of the squintest lineouts you will see. Again, picked off at the tail by Roddy Guinea. So they live to fight another day. Peebles just now. Jack Harrison finds Ross Brown. The tower in second row is able just to carry the challenge forward towards the 10 metre line. and does well to stay tall as Murdo Anderson just lies deep in the pocket to get a little bit of momentum, makes his way back towards the gain line, not able to penetrate that line on this occasion, but Donald Anderson's got some options outside him, Hodgkiss one of them. He then just passes out the back, finds James Dow. He's been wrapped up well there by Brodie Miller. There were certainly options outside there for Peebles if they could get the ball through the hands, but a good play there from Hodgkiss, the young inside centre, to size up his options. Now Neil Hogarth powering through. The challenges there, breaks through the two challenges, but momentum takes him to the ground. Options there as Collins look to gather. Murdo Anderson scoops up the ball, but it is just bounced forward. And you can see the outside, well, the back row forwards for Peebles in wider challenges, in wider channels as they look to try and really exploit the outside backs as Stuart's-Melville make a replacement in the front row there. I think that's perhaps Rue Mitchell who's coming on for Stuart's-Melville wearing the number 25. No jokes, that is one of my lucky numbers, but I don't want any jokes about the obviously the size of that shirt, but he's going to come on to replace one of the players in the front row, and certainly I'd add a little bit of size. He did come onto the game against Kelso a year ago and steadied up that scrum.
Yeah, he made a difference, yeah.
Yep, so it's going to be a similar replacement there. I think it's Stu Faulkner, is the player that is wearing the 25 jersey. Rue Mitchell is on the bench currently. So Jake Burns.
That side, you're leaning too much.
And loiters by the scrum. It's taken quickly, the free kick, and they look to try and release Adam Fraser now. He carries forward. Burns gets there quickly, finds Henderson. Henderson throws a really flat pass. It ended up being bouncing into the hands of Brodie Miller.
Anderson.
And Murdo Anderson has just been yellow carded. And the referee is going to have to explain a few things here, perhaps, just to.
It was a late hit by Anderson.
Wait, I'm just going to have a quick chat. Hold on, there's time off. All right, who's the new captain? Because he was your captain.
Jack Harrison will be the captain now. He's making his way over to the referee for a conversation.
I had a very clear word with him under the polls about the discipline.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's a series of penalties in a row. High tackle, a tackle late there, and then another penalty down there. Yeah. I want you to have a word about the discipline now, because players will keep going.
A minute and get me?
Yes, yeah.
Lads, boys, in a minute. Yeah.
Don't steal yards either.
Two good things there from as well. The referee, well, brilliant, because he's telling them to go back.
Having a word, just.
I've been impressed with this referee, to be fair.
We're having a word. Yes, time's off.
Good as well there from Jack Harrison, just to signal that can he get the minute, can he get the time. We know we've seen a lot of that in international rugby, but great rugby awareness from Jack Harrison. But yeah, the referee, a little mention of him. I think he's been a phenomenal addition to this game. He's officiated really well and really set his stall out as well.
Yeah, he's been fair, he's been consistent, he's been what you want from a match official.
Kick into the corner. Again, Stuart's-Melville creeping their way closer towards this Peebles line. 15 points to 34 they trail. It would almost be mission impossible after Peebles scored their first try in the second half, but stranger things have happened, and Stuart's-Melville will be hoping to turn the tide here, and it starts with Hayden Hart thrown into the line out. It's been gathered by Scott, it's been brought down, the ball now filtering its way through the bodies, the red shirts that are congregated at the back of that maul. It's been well resisted by Peebles, but eventually the momentum starts creeping forward. It's been well protected there by Hayden Hart at the tail of that maul, but it's broken, it's gone to ground. The referee's arm going out for the advantage, penalty advantage for Stuart's-Melville. And you can see there the shrill of the whistle, and I think the referee is going to signal another yellow card, and it's John Gray this time who's been given his marching orders.
No, there's no quick. There's no quick. Hold on.
Peebles now down to 13 men, 2 forwards in the bin. And John Gray on 54 minutes, so it is going to be 8 minutes before Peebles see any sort of benefit of having a player back on the field, and obviously 10 until they're back up to 15. That is if nobody else gets their marching orders here. Stuart's-Melville's discipline been relatively solid throughout. Peebles in the last 10 minutes has just all gone to pot, and they call the scrum. Stuart's-Melville, solid choice from the home side with that numerical advantage up front.
You'd say so, yeah. It depends what Peebles do here. Will they take one back, or will they are they going to make a change? Well, they'll need to make a change of some kind. Peebles, Aitken's about to re-enter.
Willie Aitken's going to have to reseal his bag of Werther's Original and get onto the field of play. He's not in any hurry, which is smart from him. He's starting to burst into a jog. as he's making his way towards the pitch. Still not put his scrum cap on as well. He's a wily old character at Willie Aitken, so he'll be squeezing every minute out of this watch at the moment if the referee has got the time on. But obviously bringing a front row forward on for the replacement of John Gray, a tight head prop. Willie Aitken now coming on, so it's a front row of Rory Smith, Neil Hogarth and Willie Aitken for Peebles. Neil Pate has been withdrawn for the time being, the winger, for Peebles to allow that replacement for Willie Aitken to come on. So on the 5 metre line, Peebles packed down against the pump, and Stuart's-Melville will be hoping just to squeeze their way over the line, and if not, there might be holes to exploit in the back line. So Burns, 19 on his back, feeds the scrum. It's been steady there, it's picked at the base. The number 7 there, Gregor Thompson, gathered but is just run into a little bit of an error, and the referee signalled the penalty is going to go the way of Peebles. And from that roar, you would almost feel like we're playing at the Guides, because decisions have been going the way of Stuart's-Melville. The cheers have perhaps not been that loud, but Peebles jubilant there with the decision going their way, and they can kick themselves out of danger.
Yeah, absolutely criminal by Peebles, by Stu-Mel rather there. 2 men to the good, wonderful attacking position, and they cough up the penalty. Complete shift in momentum potentially here.
You should have 12. Hold on.
You should have 13.
Captain, where's Jack? 12 on the field. Because it was a front row that got binned, so you should have 12 on the field. How many do you have on the field?
No, 13, I think.
Yes, but how many do you have on the field? You should have 12. You should have 12 because it's foul play, so one must go.
Can we go back to that?
No, we restart with a penalty because you got wrong numbers, so we'll start with a penalty over there.
Oh wow,
that's a contentious one.
I think
because I thought you'd gone down to 12, okay? So it's a penalty.
The coaching staff from the Stu-Mel side were on the sideline there just signalling about the numbers, but obviously they made a replacement.
Yes, you must be on 12.
We need to sub someone off, down to 12.
You must be on 12 because it's the front row.
Because a front row got yellow carded for foul play, I believe that they are not allowed to replace. They can just bring.
When you go uncontested. It's the law. I don't like it either, but it's the law. Thank you.
We're going to have to get out the law book and have a look at this one, Robin, I think, because that is...
we realise it's wrong. I thought they had gone to 12.
The finite depths of the law book of rugby. There's been 2 yellow cards, just to keep you up to speed. Murdo Anderson and John Gray have been yellow carded, and because a front row has been yellow carded, he's certainly a stickler for the laws there. But it started with a penalty, and it's Stuart's-Melville now. Hart throws into the line out. It's been gathered by Sword. The maul has now been brought to ground, and Peebles now with 12 men have to try and stop the onslaught here at this driving maul. It's been well repelled there by the red and white hoops of Peebles as they congest now at the centre position as Ferguson carries forward. He's been well defended as Sword goes round the corner. Smith does well to challenge. Sword looks to try and get his arms free and get the offload in, but the replacement hooker does well to get right under his body and stop any sort of offload attempt. Jack Harrison going high there as well. The referee again signalling there's a penalty coming the way of Stuart's-Melville as Ferguson catapults himself towards that defensive line. Burns now goes. He looks to try and sight up his options, and it's a roll towards the line for Stu Faulkner. And the referee again is going to have a conversation and time off.
Captain,
a couple of penalties coming in here for Peebles.
No more warnings. Yeah. Okay, high tackle, and it keeps going, and it's all near your goal line. Yeah. This is it. There's an option there, or more in midfield.
No. Are they both on the 5, sir?
This one. What do you want?
The penalty is going exactly where it was. The last breakdown of play was 15 metres in from the touchline on the far side, adjacent to the stand here at Inverleith. Sword carries forward, and he looks to try and breach the defensive line. Against the defence from Peebles is standing firm. The guards are in position. Not a lot of penalties for offside, but a lot of penalties for foul play and high challenges. And again, the attacking intent from Stuart's-Melville is repelled by the Peebles red and white wall. They will come again. The ball will filter round, and Burns looks to try and go on the blind side. Stuart's-Melville arched towards that line, just not able to breach it yet again. Most of the Stuart's-Melville players are gathered round about that breakdown of play. Again, just the body is just thrown back, and the penalty goes the way of Peebles from that breakdown. Sword, who was defended, rolled back into the ruck.
If you land on other players, you're down, okay?
Very good explanation of the laws, and we could see it. We do have a good monitor just beside us, and we could see that Sword was actually folded back into the breakdown, and he was on top of Stu Faulkner, so he was on top of the player. So the referee signalled that he was on the ground, not letting go of the ball, so holding on. So Peebles can get the penalty, and he'll be able to kick downfield here.
Wonderful defence by the 12 men. They put everything into that, and they've come up trumps, and this is going to eat down the sin bin clock, or the sin bin clocks as it is, with more than one of them in the bin. And stoic stuff from the men from the Guides.
Yeah, it's been certainly stoic from Peebles. It's been an interesting last 10 minutes in this game. We've got about 20 minutes left in this fixture. Peebles currently leading 34 points to 15. Throw into the line out on the Peebles 22. They throw in, it's been gathered by Sword. He picks the pocket of the visitors and then filtered across the hands into Ferguson. And it's Ferguson, waiting in the wider channels. He now gets the ball, that flat pass. He's then got a 2-on-1. Batia gets across, drags his opposite man down to the ground, but it's been well picked off the toe by Adam Fraser. Not able to just keep his head up enough to arc his way towards the line. His Hart now folds round the corner, 15 metres in from the touchline, 5 metres from the Peebles line, carries forward, and Peebles are making a fist of it at the breakdown, and I think they might well have just turned it over as well, because Jack Harrison is digging about at that breakdown, looking to get it back on the Peebles side. It's been charged down by Ferguson, but it comes into the clutches of Donald Anderson, and I'm going to take a minute to gather my breath. And Robin, an intense passage of play there from either side.
Stu Mel throwing everything at the 12 men of Peebles, but unable to come up trumps once again. Great turnover by one of the Peebles forwards
somebody
on the goal line. Kick was charged down, it fell into the breadbasket of Anderson. He's managed to sort of hoof it to all of 6 or 7 metres from his own line, so more pressure coming. But what a passage of play this last 7-8 minutes, and it's almost unbelievable that it's not yielded any Stu Mel points.
I would say that the yellow card is almost just about up as well as they're signalling, so Peebles might be getting back up to a couple of an additional player as we can go to Stuart Cameron.
Yes, there's still injury out there, so bring you up to date. It's Curry 42, Jed Forest 0, Inverleith 39, Musselburgh 10, Glasgow Hawks 33, Selkirk 7. There's a long stoppage at Kelso at the moment for an injured player, but it's currently 14-12 to the home side there. Mar 19, Hoyk 5, an international 1. It's Bigger 22, Ayr 33, Gala 19 now, GHA 10, and let's go straight back because play underway again.
Hart throws into the line out. It's been gathered by Sword off to Burns. Henderson now filters the ball across, and it's been gathered well there by Gregor Thompson, who's arcing an acute line back in field. Sword peels round the corner 5 metres shy of the line. He carries it and he manages to tip it on to Moyer. Moyer is there. He is defended well as the ball gets through the hands now of Willie Malcolm. Up to the 5 metre line. Peebles' defence again standing up strong as Burns, the replacement scrum half, who's had a very impressive game, manages to feed another attacking player. The back row forwards are trying really, really hard to breach this defensive line. Stuart's-Melville eventually get over the line, and it's Hayden Hart who's got the try. The referee signalling that they grounded the ball, and the hooker perhaps just playing a little bit further away from the breakdown, just going against the grain, picking the gap and just committing towards that line.
Definitely, it just needed that little bit of something from someone. They just needed to move the point of attack, and the gap was always going to appear with these extra bodies. And 20 points to 34, kick to come, and what do we have? 16 minutes remaining. There's probably more of a game on than Peebles would have thought 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to a little bit of ill discipline in terms of players who have been binned, but that time is almost up, you would imagine, for Peebles to be back to a full complement of players. Murdo Anderson still looking as a dejected figure in the Peebles technical area, as Stuart's-Melville are signalled to take the conversion attempt from in line from where the referee deems the grounding took place, and it is going to be the inside centre. Adam Fraser with another conversion attempt, and he's successful with this one, so it means that the score now, with 64 minutes gone here at Inverleith, is Stuart's-Melville 22, Peebles 34. 12 points between the sides, 15 minutes left to go. and both teams are going to have a little break, and it allows us the opportunity to catch our breath. Neil Pate coming onto the pitch as well, so you would imagine perhaps now that Peebles are back up to a full complement of 15 players, and they will be looking to try and get some points or some foothold in this game to steady the nerves, because it looked a foregone conclusion that they were going to waltz away with this win, but they've left the door ajar for Stuart's-Melville.
Definitely, it looked almost like a cricket score was going to ensue, but no, that's not been the case.
Okay, let's have some latest scores then, and this coming in thick and fast now, some surprises. Currie 42, Jed Forest 0, Embrackies 41, Musselburgh 10, Glasgow Hawks 33, Selkirk 14. They've doubled their score with a try. Still Kelso 14, Heriots Blues 12, and Mar 19, Hawick 5. In National 1, Biggar making a big comeback here. It's Biggar 29, Ayr 33, Gala 19, GHA 10. Extraordinary comeback from last week. You'll remember that Watsonians put 69 points on them, but today Watsonians are down 34-0 at Highland. Extraordinary. Still waiting on news from Glasgow Accies and Dundee. Maybe they don't want to tell us. Melrose 47, GHK 0 is a latest score. International 2. How about this one? Falkirk 62, Aberdeen Grammar 24. But Aberdeen, for the second week running, despite being heavily defeated, have got a try bonus in both of them. STEWART'S-MELVILLE here, of course, is now 22. It's Peebles 34, National 3, Hamilton 15, Allen Glens 26. A couple of East League score lines for you. Langham 28, Royal High 5. It's Hawick Lindeen 13, Dalkeith 3, and in the East League 3, Earlston 27, Lismore 0. Earlston, after having no wins last year, are on the brink of having 2 back-to-back.
People's now going to get play back underway. And this time, after conceding points, they'll get to take the restart, because the last time it was a penalty that they gave away. And Peebles now kick downfield. Donald Anderson, right-footed kick over the 10-metre line. It's been gathered by Stuart's-Melville, and they go straight on the attack. They go straight into Neil Hogarth, who manages just to break free. The referee signalling that there's a penalty there for Neil Hogarth not releasing.
Nothing silly. Nothing silly.
And that is that's disappointing as well. From this angle here, it looked like it was a great tackle, good attempt at the jackal. You could hear the referee clearly saying to release the ball, and he had 2 occasions where he was looking at the decision that he was going to make, but to concede a penalty straight away is disappointing. But Peebles, I think, are going to be able to bring both players back onto the pitch, and they'll be back up to a full complement of players now, because it looks like Lewis Brotherston is being ushered back onto the pitch, and Murdo Anderson is on as well. Neil Pate comes on as well, so it is back up to 15 against 15 here at Inverleith, but there'll certainly be a few players there in People's colours with their cards marked by the match official.
Yeah.
Throw into the line out. It's old-fashioned. It's no lifters at all, but it's fallen kindly to Ross Brown, who just reaches to the sky and plucks the ball out of thin air. Neil Hogarth tries to link up with Cameron Pye, and it ricochets off his shoulder, but Neil Hogarth as well to just wrap round and then gather the ball and arc his line forward. Rory Smith now not able to gather the ball. It was a simple pass and catch from his in terms of what he was looking to receive. An unforced error from the replacement hooker, and a little bit of complacency now coming into the Peebles game, conceding a scrum now on the 22, up to 15 players albeit, but we do have about 13 minutes left in this game, and Stuart's-Melville are in a nice attacking position.
They are again, and you mentioned just from that kick-off, Dale, just another penalty conceded and how disappointing it is, but I think the flip side to that is they played a chunk of time with 12 men and they only conceded 1 try, so all told they've probably weathered that pretty well.
So I think that comes down to not personnel when you let's see what the referee is going to say now.
Stability both sides, you need to keep it, okay?
Nothing exciting. But I think with the fact that you're going backs against the wall with 12 men, you get these penalties because tiredness comes into the game. You know, we're over an hour into this game. For a large portion of that, they had to play with 12 men. So there's going to be these lapses of judgment and errors of judgment in the People's ranks. But they need to find a way to try and turn the tide here. And it's going to be a put in for Burns. Early replacement for scrum half Charlie Burrows, who got the first try in this game. And Peebles have managed to turn the tide because they've put the squeeze on at the scrum, and the penalty has gone the way of the visitors. And there's not been many scrums in this game that have gone to fruition and gone to completion, is there?
No, it's been a wee bit of a mess. There's been a few penalties awarded to Peebles, but that's the first penalty of any kind that Peebles have had to relieve the pressure for a while. But no, it's a decent kick to touch. I thought it was going to come up short, but yeah, it just gives them that bit of territory again, which they've been yearning.
Peebles now find a rare opportunity inside of the Stuart's-Melville half, something they've probably not really enjoyed since the 45th minute when they got an additional score through the man that's going to throw into this line out, Rory Smith. He's standing right in front of us, opposite side, with the ball firmly poised above his head, ready to throw this into the line out. A little bit of a movement, and at the tail it goes. Ross Brown's lifted at the base of that line out. Now Donald Anderson feeds off and carry forward from Cameron Pye, who just ducks the head into the challenge. Now Jack Hamilton, he links up well. Neil Hogarth in the wider channels, carries forward, but he's been wrapped up well there by Brodie Miller, who manages just to get round the ankle of the replacement prop as Anderson looks to try and feed to one of his back row forwards. One of them was Murdo Anderson, perhaps never got it with much momentum because Donald Anderson had to retreat out of the contact area, but now he manages to feed Rory Smith on the 10 metre line. Gets to ground, he's on his back. The Stuart's-Melville players are bundled out the way as Ross Brown, again, not for the first time in this game, picks and goes round the corner. Referee signalling that they need to leave it as Jack Hamilton tries to just snare his way around the fringes there. The referee signalling the knock on, but the referee signalling that he did blow a little bit too early in that game as Ali Scott is going to come back onto the pitch. I think Dan McConkey is going to be withdrawn. He was an early replacement for Curtis Williams, so a little break in play here. A scrum deep inside the Stuart's-Melville half, and it's going to be a put into Stuart's-Melville. 54-7
to Currie at the moment. One try for Jed Forrest, David Beatty scoring that, converted by Gary Munro. 41-10 to Inverleith against Musselburgh. Glasgow Accies 33, Selkirk 14. This is all in the Premiership. Kelso 14, Herrick's Blues 12. Remember, play held up for a long time there, an injury to Cammy Thompson of Kelso. Mar 19, Hoyk 5 is a latest score, is Hoyk's unbeaten record going to go. National 1, it's bigger, 29, Ayr 33, Gala 19, GHA 10. It's Highland 34, Watsonians 0. Extraordinary scoreline there. And Melrose 47, GHK 7. International 2, and well, the scores just keep happening at Falkirk. Falkirk 62, Aberdeen Grammar 31. So Aberdeen Grammar have got the one try bonus. Stumel here, it's 22, and Peebles 34.
Put into the scrum for Stuart's-Melville. Burns feeds, and then eventually the penalty goes the way of Peebles. Now, maths is never my strong point, but I tell you what, and Stuart's-Melville will be marched back 10. I know exactly what I would be doing from here. There's a 12-point advantage that Peebles currently have, and they've got a penalty attempt straight in front of the sticks. And Robin, are you in agreement?
Oh, absolutely, all day long. Well, it takes it from a two-score ball game to a three-score ball game, and yeah, Donald Anderson's too wily to pass up an opportunity that's been handed to him like that with 10 yards added for good measure.
Yeah, that's probably forced the decision there from Peebles. The first time that they've been inside the Stuart's-Melville half, and for the good part of about 15 or 20 minutes, and their first opportunity to try and extend their lead again since Stuart's-Melville have fought their way back in. It's a penalty attempt for Donald Anderson right in front of the uprights, just encroaching the 22. Right-footed kick, as pedestrian as you like, from the experienced fly half, and Peebles extend their lead here, and they now lead by 37 points to 22, and we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left in this game, and John Gray is going to come on to replace Willie Aitken in the front row for Peebles.
Let's quickly go to Andrew Fleming at Netherdale.
Midway through the second half here at Netherdale, and again Gala lead by 9 points. After GHA pulled a try back on the brink of half-time from centre Max McFarlane, the hosts started the second half well, and substitute Richie Todd went over for his side's third try after some good work from Tim McAvanagh. On 55 minutes, scrum half Lachlan Johnson was yellow carded for his involvement in a heated scuffle, but to Gala's credit, they remained unscathed for the entirety of his sin bin, and it's Gala 19, GHA 10.
On to the Green Yards and Sam Matthews.
At the Green Yards, a much slower pace second half with only 2 tries scored this side of the half-time whistle. GHK finally getting on the board to make the score. Melrose 47, GHK 7.
And Bruce McNeil scored a try for Kelso, so it's Kelso 19, Herrick's Blues 12.
The tight at Pointer Park, and I can imagine the atmosphere there will be electric. And here at Inverleith, it's Peebles currently in the driving seat, and one of the men helping drive the bus over the line is Donald Anderson, who's just going to be sitting in the pocket for the rest of this game, looking to nudge Peebles into the corners. But Stuart's-Melville looking to break free from deep inside their own half, and they have done just that through Brodie Miller. He's been well challenged there by Jackson. Jackson again has a second bite of the cherry because he's just wrapped up Jake Burns. And good to see Jackson back on the field and not dropping his standards at all. as he's putting pressure on the Stuart's Melville scrum half. But good play from Stuart's Melville, getting the ball through the hands from Henderson, eventually into the clutches of Miller, who just was streaking down the wing in front of us. But good defence again from the covering Peebles players.
Yeah, good heart, good guts shown by Stu Mel in this second half. But you're right, Peebles up to the task there, and what a fillip it'll be to see that man Ewan Jackson come back on.
Throw into the tail, again accurate, well gathered by Roddy Guinea. And now Harrison, he finds Anderson. Anderson finds Pye. He just lifts the knees and carries forward. Donald Anderson now in his leather recliner, just in the pocket, looking to try and orchestrate proceedings with his boot. He finds Brodie Miller. He spills it past to Bowen, who's been quite quiet for the last 20 minutes or so, but it's been attritional and it's been up front forward warfare here at Inverleith as Stuart's Melville have tried to just muscle their way back into this game, but now they're being ushered back inside their own 22. They've got the penalty from a high challenge. The referee is going to perhaps
I know. Captain.
He's going to have a conversation. Ewan Jackson, the guilty party this time.
It's a penalty only because it's seatbelt and he's going down. Any more dangerous tackles and they're just straight yellow cards now. Thank you.
That's fun.
Jamie, I know your point of view.
I appreciate it, yeah.
But you had the same one as well earlier in the game.
Referee signalling that it was a seatbelt tackle. No real danger there at all, but certainly setting a stall out that Peebles will be getting a few more cards if they continue in that fashion. And it is going to be a long season because games are going to be stop-start as people and players get used to these new laws. But you know, it is important. But you feel even for this game, it's not been too disjointed, but there has been occasions where there's the chance that it can spoil occasions, but you know, perhaps the decisions here aren't going to really turn the tide of this game. They almost could have, but you feel now in the stage that we're in, it's perhaps not going to have a huge impact to this fixture.
No, it doesn't appear to look that way anyway, Dale, and I think he's been bang on the money with them all, to be honest.
Burns peels off, he finds the inside centre Fraser, links up with the fly half Henderson. Ferguson arrives on the scene and stays tall yet again. He's a very upright runner with the ball in hand. Now the back row forwards and Malcolm carries. Jamie Sword, he's been an impressive ball carrier throughout the game, perhaps not making as much of an impact as he usually would, but he's certainly been trying to get his team on the front foot and the go forward, and in this passage of play has been able to get Stuart's Melville up to the Peebles 22. They've been ushered back slightly as the Peebles defence comes up as a unit. Carry round the forward, offload there into Henderson. Henderson now finds Sword again. Sword is brought to ground, looks to try and offload off the deck, but not able to. Burns is waiting for the ball to be spilled. The nudge comes on from Peebles. It looked like there was an element of a knock-on in there, but the referee lets it play. Replacement there, Stu Faulkner picks up and has to act as the auxiliary replacement scrum half. Burns recycles himself to find Ferguson. Upright yet again, carries forward, not making much ground because he's just run straight into the shoulder of Finlay Collins. Second row there, offloading. It was Scott, finds Malcolm, and Thompson in there as well. The players, the back row forwards, all linking up well as Henderson offers up the ball on a plate to one of the on-rushing Stuart's Melville attackers. A couple of players congested in there. The penalty coming the way of Stuart's Melville. Murdo Anderson kicks downfield, a couple of blasts of the whistle, and I think we know what's coming. And Neil Hogarth, one of the shortest players on the pitch, is guilty of tackling above the sternum, so it's a yellow card for last season's club captain at Peebles, and he's going to have to make his way off the field of play. So it's the third yellow card for Peebles here in this fixture, and there's two for the replacements, and Peebles will have to see out this game with 14 men. You would imagine now they're home and hosed, we're in the dying embers of this fixture, but Stuart's Melville will be chasing that bonus point try. They'll be wanting to leave here with something. Another high challenge in there from Cameron. Pye perhaps has just been missed there by the referee, but Stuart's Melville going against the grain. Burns finds Hart, the most recent try scorer for Stuart's Melville. He looks to try and dig his way in between the limbs there. Ball to Henderson. Henderson's found a little gap. He squeezes through for a try, and the fly half has got the bonus point scored here for Stuart's Melville. Perhaps the victory is beyond the home side. They take it to within 10 points now. Perhaps still a couple of minutes left to play in this fixture, but this kick coming up next is going to be vital. It would take it towards an 8-point game. But 4 minutes, the referee is signalling there. 4 minutes left to play. and it's 4 minutes that Peebles will have 14 men. They'll have to defend a 10-point advantage, and that shouldn't be reduced to 8 points if Adam Fraser can add this conversion attempt.
Yeah, and if somebody had said to you at half-time or just after half-time that Stu Mel would come away from this with a try-scoring bonus, you'd have had a chuckle to yourself. They really looked dead and buried, but you got to say all credit to the heart, the guts, and they've been aided, of course, by Peebles' ill-discipline.
Well, the cat's among the pigeons now. We've got some latest scores, and here they are. Kelso 21, it's Herrick's Blues 12, Mar 24, Hawick 5. Time running out there. Looks like Hawick's unbeaten record is going to go at Fullerton Park. Bigger 34, Ayr 33. They've gone ahead by 1 point. And also Highland 34, Watsonians 0, and Melrose 54 now, GHK 7.
National 1, the gift that keeps giving in Scottish club rugby as Peebles kick deep. They kick it straight down the throat of Ferguson, who puts his skates on and looks to get his team down the right end of the pitch as Bowen manages just to get the ball into the hands of Brodie Miller, who's loitering on the touchline. Peebles do well to try and get the ball back on their side. Pate wrapped up in there along with Miller. His sword carries forward, and then the scrum half look to try and get the ball away. Ewan Jackson is on that like a seagull on a hot chip because he was straight on the scrum half as the ball was loose. The referee signalling that it was a high challenge because Burns was on his honkers. Ewan Jackson instinctively just engulfed the replacement scrum half with his arms, but obviously caught his head first, so the referee signals that there's a penalty in there. Stuart's-Melville know that time is of the essence. Kick downfield. They've managed to make touch on the 10-metre line inside the People's half. We've got about 3 minutes left to play in this game. 10 points is the difference between these two sides. Now thrown to the line out for Stuart's-Melville. They've scored 3 tries in the second half. Peebles only getting the 1 plus a penalty. So it has been a tale of 2 halves here in this game. Stuart Cameron itching to give us some updates, but play is still underway and it is still finally poised here at Inverleith. A peel off the line out, the referee probably in the wrong area there. Is maybe got a Peebles top on under there because that's going to play into Peebles' hands. The ball ricocheting off his sternum as the ball was looking to get distributed from Stu Faulkner there into the outside backs, but the referee getting in the road, bouncing off his chest, and Peebles will welcome that. It's a little bit of a breather, but it'll certainly see the sand drain out with the egg timer somewhat.
Indeed, and they're just, if they can get territory now and get another penalty, then it's 3 if it's 3 point territory, then they're going for 2 points from this game here, Stu Mel, and that was unthinkable half an hour ago.
Yeah, we did mention the game last year between Stuart's-Melville and Kelso, which was as one-sided a game as you would like. It was relentless in the first half an hour from Kelso, but in the second half, Stuart's-Melville almost made a game of it until Kelso were able to pull away. And you feel it's an element of deja vu here at Inverleith because Peebles are playing in a similar vein as the ball is fed into the scrum. Uncontested now as Burns then finds the inside centre, linked up well with Henderson. Henderson then distributes to the fullback Bowen. He's managed to find Kidari in wider channels and well gathered there by Neil Pate. A free kick inside of the 22, and the kick is the wrong option. Robin, I'm guessing you're alluding to?
Oh, absolutely. The kick was the wrong option. They needed to keep it in hand. They had all the territory. They were heading towards the 22, and
kick downfield from Neil Pate, but it's been started quickly by Henderson, who passes infield, and now Stuart's-Melville, who are running slightly isolated, are looking to try and make some inroads in this Peebles defence. The ball held in there. That's a great jackal from Roddy Guinea and Rudy Smith that wins the penalty for Peebles, and an applause from the Peebles dugout means that they know that they now hold all the cards. They can kick downfield, they can play the game at a pace that suits them and just squeeze the life out of Stuart's-Melville and get back down the bypass to the gates. Enjoy a few refreshments with a bonus point victory on the road in the bag as Jack Harrison kicks downfield, and it's a good fight on the floor. There's been some areas where perhaps Peebles have won the upper, like the battle, maybe in the scrum, certainly on the floor and in defence. Yeah. But in the second half, the margins haven't been as wide as they perhaps were in the opening 30 minutes.
You're right there. I think they've won the key battles. They've won the back row battle. Guinea's been very impressive, as has Collins, as has Ewan Jackson, who we've mentioned, and yeah, they've probably won the battle of halfbacks as well, I have to say.
Guinea brings the ball down. Jackson was quick there just to swallow up that ball. Sword is swimming through and he manages to make a fist of it because he's put Rudy Smith under some pressure. The counter-attack and ruck comes on from Stewart's-Melville, but has been plucked from the toe there from Collins, who does really, really well to steady that ship. Ewan Jackson now just signalling to Rudy Smith that they want to keep things nice and tight, nice and quiet, and just bore the life out of Stewart's-Melville. And the referee has given another penalty towards Peebles, so they'll be able to kick downfield.
Kelso 21, Herits 22 is the latest score, and I can confirm that Hawick have been beaten. Mar 24, Hawick 5 is a final result, and in National 2, Falkirk 62, Aberdeen Grammar 36 is a final score. Also, a couple of final scores in the East Leagues for you. In East League 1, a win for Langham, their first in East League 1, 45-19 against Royal High. In East League 2, it ended Lindeen 16, Dalkeith 15, and Earlston have won again. Earlston 46, Lismore 5 in East 3.
Peebles now just needing to get over the line. The time perhaps has elapsed for Stewart's-Melville to get a victory in this game. Still an opportunity to get a losing bonus point, but the line out goes to the tail. Roddy Guinea gathers. The driving maul now comes on. It's got great momentum from the 22. It's still trundling towards that 5 metre line. It starts to slow down. It's hit the speed bumps there, but it's broken away, and then peeling off the corner is John Gray for the final score for Peebles. And the prop manages just to break free from that maul and swan dive over the line, and it is perhaps just what Peebles deserve in this fixture. They take it beyond Stewart's-Melville and they get the final say in this game at Inverleith, and that means it takes them into the 40s and it allows them to go back down the road to the gates with an emphatic victory over Stewart's-Melville. Yes, they've conceded points, but again, that driving maul, Robin.
Oh, I was just going to say, Dale, you talk about facets of the game, and their first two are things of absolute beauty, and that one was no less aesthetically pleasing as well. That's been such a strike weapon for them today, and that comes down to good coaching and good execution by the players.
Donald Anderson with the final say in this game. 4 metres shy of the touchline, conversion attempt, right footed. Pedestrian, he's sclaffed that just in front of the uprights, but it won't matter a jot really in terms of the balance of things, because Peebles go back to the gates with a bonus point victory here from Inverleith. It was a lightning start, as we said, in the first half from Stewart's-Melville. Charlie Burrows got them off to a lightning start, later leaving the game injured, but an opportunistic try from the wiry scrum half got Stewart's-Melville off to a brilliant start. But a first half onslaught meant that at half time it was Peebles with a 27-8 advantage. Tries from Neil Pate, Ross Brown, Ewan Jackson and Roddy Guinea put Peebles in the driving seat. In the second half, it was a slightly different story, because Stewart's-Melville, although Peebles did score a try in the start of the second half, Stewart's-Melville came out and put in a really good performance. Tries from Jake Burns, Hayden Hart and also Kyle Henderson at the tail meant that there was a possibility that the Stewart's-Melville could have snatched a victory from the jaws of defeat. But at the end, John Gray has paid to any of those hopes, because right at the death from another drive and maul, Peebles nudged their way over the line and they get that final score. And it means here at Inverleith, Peebles leave with a bonus point victory, because it is Stewart's-Melville 27, Peebles 42.
Thank you to Dale and Robin. Robin's going to make his way pitch side. Dale's not going to go anywhere. We're going to have a little chat in a second, but some post-match interviews. A lot to talk about. A lot of things to do with discipline and yellow cards and tries and all sorts of things. But lots happening as the two go into the huddle. I can tell you that Gala have won 22-15 against GHA. GHA, the team that beat Melrose, of course, last week. And Melrose have won 68 points to 7 against GHK. I think that's actually a latest score. Latest at Poynter Park, Kelso 21, Herits Blues 24. The conversion went over for that one. I've already told you that Mar 24, Hawick 5 is a full-time scoreline there. Musselburgh have got the try bonus, but it's not enough to get them over the line at Rayburn Place. It's currently Embraki's 41, Musselburgh 27. Still time being played on that one. In National 2, Lasswade 34, Newton Stewart 18. A great start to the season for Peter Wright's team there. And here's a latest score again. Kelso 24, Herits Blues 24. So it's all square there at the moment. Don't forget that game was delayed through an injury to Cammy Thompson. So still time played in that one. An absolute thriller in the Premiership down at Poynter Park. Melrose 68, GHK 7 is now confirmed as a result. 68-7 there. Aki's 41-27. That is a final score now. But we'll be back after the break.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Borders water, Borders barley and Borders people. That's what makes the Borders Distillery. Working exclusively with local farmers, the Borders Distillery is bringing whiskey making back to the region. Our award-winning distillery is open to everyone, where you can meet the people behind the scenes, explore our wash house and shop quality local products. Tour your local distillery and discover the spirit of the Borders. Full details at thebordersdistillery.com. Always enjoy our spirit responsibly. Under 18s must be accompanied by an adult when visiting the Borders Distillery.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a-brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
14 minutes to 5 live on a Saturday afternoon in September with the temperatures about 26 degrees. We've had some score lines to match as well. We're going to go down to the pitch side now because Robin Purdie has got with him the captain of Stewart's-Melville, and that is Jamie Sword.
Thank you. I'm joined here by Jamie Sword. And Jamie, you came flying out the traps, early score, and it all looked quite rosy in the garden.
Yeah, Charlie's been saying for quite a while that he's the fastest man in the club over 10 metres, so it's nice to see him prove it. And fair play to Peebles, they reacted really well and came back really strongly.
And you mentioned Charlie Burrows there, and obviously Curtis Williams as well, a couple of probably pretty influential players for you guys, and they went off pretty early in the piece, and that's never going to help matters.
Yeah, no, of course, but we can't really make excuses for it. You've got to react to it, especially when you've only got a four-man bench. You need to be adaptable in this league, and I think fair play to the boys. It took us a little bit of time, but we did adapt to it, and it's just something we're going to have to learn from as we go on this season. We will lose key people, and it's how we react in those situations.
And you came out for the second half having conceded points in the first half. Peebles scored again shortly after half time, and it looked a wee bit like you guys were dead and buried, but you must be proud of the way the guys responded, and you clawed your way right back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair credit to the boys. There's a lot of young lads in there that will take a lot from that today. It's about how you learn from it. And as you say, you know, we experienced a few times last season where heads would go down, but we know we're a fit team and we know that we've got an 80-minute performance in us. And we were just looking for that key sort of pressure swing. You know, I'd say maybe that yellow card, those 2 yellow cards just gave us that opportunity. And fair play to the lads for sticking in and really taking it when they got that opportunity. And
of course you got that possibly all-important bonus point at the end there, the 4-try bonus, and that certainly gives you something to build on for the coming weeks. And a good, let's not forget, a good draw last week down at Bed. Not that many teams potentially will win down there, so you're picking up points.
Yeah, absolutely. We know all too well. We spent a lot of time in this league, and we know how important every single point is. It'll all count come the end of the season, so for us that's a real positive to build on, and it's a vindication for the team that the moves we're running in training are coming off, and we're scoring some nice tries and playing good rugby.
Well, Jamie, thank you very much, and all the best for the rest of the season.
This is Rugby Radio. Rugby Radio.
Here with Murdo Anderson, the Peebles captain. Murdo, they come out all guns blazing, early try, but you guys didn't panic.
Not at all. It was slightly not what we wanted, but everything that we've been practising, we came out from under the posts. We said before the game, at some point we will be under the posts, and it's about how we come out of there which will set the result of the game. And we came out, we stuck to our game plan, and the second half there was a few bits that went our way, but when we had 15 on the pitch we were unstoppable.
Yeah, after they scored, you guys came out, as you say, from that. There was some great rugby played in that first half. The physical dominance was there for all to see, and then you went obviously into half time with a commanding lead. What was the message at half time, and is there an element of complacency that can creep in when you have such a commanding lead?
I guess there probably is, but I don't think that's what happened there. There was just a little bit over eagerness this early in the season at times, which can result in accumulating penalties against you, which you lose with a bit of momentum. We've got a lot of young players who have really put in an amazing shift. This is their second game or their first game ever playing senior rugby, and you couldn't really tell which ones they were. So I think there's maybe just little bits where we need to gel a bit more as a team, but down to 12 men, and it took 12 minutes for them to score. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask about the positives you can take from that scenario. You know, you scored just after half time, and for all the world, the game was dead and buried. But discipline probably left the building a wee bit. But you must be proud of how the guys that remained on the field dealt with that.
I have to calm down a little bit sometimes, but that's how I play. And to be fair, we said before the game, it's going to be about what you do for the man next to you today. And I maybe lost the head a little bit, was off for 10 minutes for a wee break, but the rest of the team, they really dug deep and they held them out for as long as they could. We got a turnover on our own line to march them up, and it was only right at the end of the period that we were down players that they actually managed to score. So,
and all told, this is a great away win, another bonus point in the bag, 10 points from a possible 10 first 2 games of the season. What are the realistic expectations for the club from here on in?
Well, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We've got a brilliant coaching team, we've got a brilliant playing setup at the moment, so we're just going to keep working on our game plan, keep executing it. As the season goes on, it'll change a bit, but we're looking to take scalps home and away, and try and put as many bonus points as we can.
Well, thanks for joining us, Murdo. Great win today, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Robin Purdie down there with the two captains, and Dale, that was some match in discipline from both sides there, but the referee I thought had a good game. There was one controversial moment, of course, but apart from that I thought he was very fair.
They have had him on a few occasions, and he likes to set his stall out. He doesn't take any nonsense. He's probably not as open as other referees to perhaps persuasion. He likes to be in charge of the game, and I thought the referee was pretty good, to be honest. I thought he was pretty fair. There's going to be bones of contention throughout the whole season as the new laws start coming and showing their effects, so the tackle height and what have you. But overall, I thought the referee had a good game, and especially that little bit of the numbers with players and stuff like that. Obviously the penalty, Peebles conceded the try, and then the little bit of ill-discipline was a penalty straight after. Basic, we've seen that before, but in terms of the numbers, I thought the referee dealt with that pretty well, because there was a lot of confusion there, and he pretty much just went, look, sorry, my error, got to start with a penalty. That allows STEWART'S-MELVILLE to go back into that area and attack, because Peebles benefited. Well, they might have benefited from having an additional player, but I thought the referee was good. But overall, the game was it was certainly high octane. It was stop-start in bits, but when it got going, both teams wanted to play attacking rugby. I just thought over the piece, Peebles just looked a little bit more composed and a little bit more classy than STEWART'S-MELVILLE, and that's not saying it through Peebles' tinted glasses. I just thought they looked like they had a better quality of player.
Let's go to Netherdale then. It's finished in National 1. It's Gala against GHA. Andrew Fleming.
Full time here at Netherdale, and Gala have defeated GHA by 22 points to 15. After last week's humbling result at Watsonians, it was essential the Maroons bounced back, and while there wasn't much X-Factor rugby on show, it's the grit and stubborn defensive work which has secured the points. The host came from behind to lead 14-10 at the break after tries from Jack Easton and Scott Peppers. Richie Todd added a third try in the second half, and after GHK made it a nervy finish with a late score, a late turnover penalty allowed Scott Peppers to add a further 3 points for a 7-point win. A much welcome result here at Netherdale. It's a win for the Maroons by 22 points to 15.
Big turnaround there, and of course Watsonians put 69 points on them last week. This week Watsonians concede 41 points and don't score. 41-0 to Highland. That is a final score in National 1. All the Premiership results are in now. It's Curry 54, Jed Forest 7, Edinburgh Accies 41, Musselburgh, it's either 25 or 27. I've seen two conflicting reports, but Musselburgh did get the try bonus, that has been confirmed. Glasgow Hawks 45, Selkirk 19 is a final result there, and Kelso 24, Heriots Blues 24. So a second consecutive draw for Kelso after drawing with Musselburgh at Stony Hill last week. And the final score, Mar 24, Hawick 5. Hawick's unbeaten record has gone. So changing of the guards at the top end of the table. International 1, and well, you have to feel sorry for Biggar. They fought their way back to go in the lead. They've actually lost. Biggar 34, Ayr 36 at Hartree Mill. So losing by a point last week, 2 points this week. Biggar still haven't got a win as yet. Gala 22, GHA 15, we've just heard. Still waiting on Glasgow Accies and Dundee. No information on that one. Highland 41, Watsonians 0 we've given you. And Melrose 68, GHK 7 is a final score on that one. Into National 2, Falkirk 62, Aberdeen Grammar 36. That's a huge result over there at Sunnyside, I think it is, isn't it, the ground at Falkirk? But credit to Aberdeen for the second week running, actually getting 4 tries despite a heavy defeat up there. Lasswade 34, Newtown Stuart 18 is a final score. Stewart's-Melville 27, Peebles 42 here. And in National 3 it was Preston Lodge 45, West of Scotland 17. Also in the East League, those 3 results that we have for you: Earlston 46, Lismore 5 in East League 3. East League 2, Lindeen 16, Dalkeith 15, and also we've got Langham 45, Royal High 19, and that was in East League 1. So what are we doing next week? Well, there's lots going on, of course. Next week we've got Pike against Kelso, Heriots Blues against Edinburgh Accies, Musselburgh against Currie, and Selkirk v Jed Forest. So it's Derby Day next week. Have a quick look at the Premiership table. Currie at the top with 10 points. Edinburgh Accies also 10 points, but on points difference there behind. Third, it's Heriots Blues. Fourth is Mar on 6 points now. In 5th position, Glasgow Hawks on 5. 6th place is Kelso on 5 points. 7 is Hawick on 4. 8, Musselburgh on 4. 9, Selkirk on 0, and Jed Forest on 0 as well. So it's ended here in the Premiership. Wins for Currie, Edinburgh Accies, Glasgow Hawks and Mar. A draw between Kelso and Heriots Blues. In National 1, victories went to Ayr and Gala and Melrose and Highland. We're still, as I say, waiting for the result from Glasgow Accies and Dundee. Next week, it's, as I say, Derby time in the Premiership. We're back in the Borders for Selkirk versus Jed Forest from Philip Hawke, both without a win at the moment, so that could well be a big match. And we'll also be covering Hawick and Kelso and keeping an eye on the 2 Edinburgh derbies: Edinburgh Accies v Heriots, Musselburgh against Currie, and Glasgow Hawks against Mar, plus plenty more besides. We'll be back next Saturday between 2 and 5. Hope you can join us then. But for now, from me and the team here at Inverleith on Rugby Radio, a very good night.